Hi, I'm Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. This is a message for the people of America, given in my authentically recorded, non-AI voice. Thanks to my leadership over the last several years, California has become a world leader in extremist left-wing governance. My policies were so effective that almost 1 million people are now fleeing the state every year. We even ran out of U-Hauls. During the COVID pandemic, I locked everyone in their homes and shut down businesses for months. Not the French Laundry, though. That's my favorite restaurant. Last year, I cleaned up the dangerous, messy streets of San Francisco, because Chinese Communist President Xi was coming, and I really wanted to impress him. He's my boss, after all. This year, I signed legislation that allows me to take custody of your kid if you refuse to give him artificial hormones and chop off his genitals. Because if you don't do that, you're a bigot, and bigots shouldn't be allowed to have kids. I've also led the way in green energy by banning all cars that don't run on electricity. Then I banned almost all the electricity. This is smart leadership. On my watch, the cost of living and homelessness have skyrocketed. Schools are failing. Drug dealers and human traffickers are pouring across the border. And poop has covered the sidewalks of San Francisco. This is the positive, joyful vision we offer as Democrats. That's why I'm enthusiastically endorsing Kamala Harris for president in 2024. She'll do to the country everything I did in California. Anyway, I'm California Governor Gavin Newsom, and I approve this 100% real message, which is a recording of my voice without the assistance of any AI whatsoever. This isn't a deep fake, and you can rest assured that it isn't, because I just signed an unconstitutional law outlawing deep fakes. No one would dare violate it. Thank you, and science bless America.
Wednesday night lightning and our minds are white. We say something, baby, we can say it all. Presidents, come out.
And there she is. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Wednesday Night Lightning. And just as the song said, Wednesday Night Lightning, something like that. So let's see what we got here. It is a little Destiny May co-host. Welcome, Destiny, to the stage. Des, how are you? What's going on? What's the latest?
Oh, couldn't be better. Well, actually, it could be better. It was a rainy day today, but outside of the weather, it's been a great day. I've had a really exciting week and weekend. I don't know about you guys, but I did a lot this weekend working with helping a friend put out his documentary that just dropped on the 13th. It's called What is Treason? #Trafficked. Everyone should watch it. We did a whole bunch of spaces on it. It's about the child trafficking at the border. It's really phenomenal work. So I've been doing a lot of spaces on that, getting to talk to a lot of the people that are leading the way in solving this problem. And, I'm really happy about it. It's been awesome. And getting ready for a documentary coming up in the springtime. I'm excited.
Don't say anything about that yet. That's still, I know how big that is. That's going to be a big one. That's a big surprise for people.
I know. When people find out who it's with, they're going to freak out.
Oh, they are. Isn't that such a tease? Wow. That's really not even nice to do, but it is. They are. Yes, they're going to be shocked by this one. That's going to be great.
Big time.
Yes. Big time. Also, welcome to the co-host stage. The first time co-hosting with us. May, it is fantastic to have you. A lot of people, big fans of yours. Certainly Destiny and I are big fans. How are you? What's going on with you?
It's going good, Mike. I'm glad to be here. Destiny, good to see you again. That sounds incredible. I haven't been doing anything that spectacular, but I've been reading the Little Black Classics from the Penguin Publisher Company. They post this thing I think they have a celebration every time they hit a big landmark for 80 years or 70 years or something. And it's a bunch of classic books that are super interesting. So that's what I spent all night last night doing. And they're very good. Yeah.
Well, that sounds fantastic. By the way, we have been in several spaces with May. She is a fantastic co-host. She comes from she's in the Hitch Slap camp. See Eileen down there is another another person in the Hitch camp, and see Chris Philby in there. We got a little America Mission camp as well. So we got all kind of people represented tonight. But it's going to be an interesting topic, and I'm really kind of looking to dig into this. And I was talking with Des earlier, and this is kind of an issue if you think about it, Des, that people talk about this, because I think for so long we've been kind of under the thumb of oppression, in the fact that we've been oppressed because if we say something that goes out of line, we're called whatever name of the book, racist, sexist, homophobic, I don't know, misogynist, for God's sake. I don't know. Like, it could be anything. I don't even know. But it's something that they call, and I think that's I think we're kind of growing out of that. What do you think?
Anti-Semitic, Islamophobic. Those are some more of them.
Yes.
Yep. I just posted a Nick Fuentes clip last night, and it was basically saying exactly that about like white supremacy. I don't condone this, but he was saying how people who don't support like their race, like saying you can't support your race, but specifically hating on white people whenever they feel like they want to, be for their race and for making sure it doesn't go out extinct, which we know about the Depop crisis, and the white people are becoming a minority. So it's kind of interesting. He was like, why is it a sin for us to want our race to, continue? That shouldn't be a sin, essentially, is what he was trying to say. And I thought that was really interesting. I've never heard him say anything like that before.
Well, you can make a point about that is solid, right? That you may want something to continue. Like I want things in my past to continue, but I think a lot of us have to accept the fact that times change, and it's not going to continue the same way that we know it. You know what I'm saying? It is going to become more integrated as we move forward, but it doesn't mean that fighting for something that you like or that you're comfortable with. I've said it before. If you put black kids, Asian kids, Hispanic kids, and white kids, and they've never met each other in their life, and you put them all in a cafeteria at the beginning of a school year, in one corner is going to be the black kids, the other corner white kids, the other corner Hispanic kids, and the other corner Asian kids, and you'll have some people in the middle that kind of just start talking to each other. And then you come back after a while, and it's going to be a huge mix. It'll still be you'll still be able to see the general color of those four corners, but the middle is huge and all mixed up, right? Because that's just, there's nothing you can do to stop that from happening.
Typically people choose their own race. That's normal, and you can research it. And I feel like when this is a super controversial subject, but if you go and research on your own and you look up, like, do black people prefer black people over white people? You're going to find that is the case 9 times out of 10, which is totally normal. I mean, we're tribal creatures, right? So that's just one thing that I've heard and read. Yeah, definitely.
What do you think, Daz?
Yeah, let me jump in, because this is a issue that's near and dear to my heart, and I put in the in the Jumbotron. There's 2 different threads, but they're the same document. I just want you to be able to see samples of it, and also just have the PDF to it. This was written, it's a Navy War College document, and it was written, I think, in 1990, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to find out. Yeah, 1990 or 1999. 1999. And it's written by Major Robert B. Polk of the School of Advanced Military Studies in the United States Army Command and General Staff College in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. And it was classified for a while, but they declassified it. And the entire report is essentially how they could weaponize multiculturalism to bring down the West, and in particular to bring down the United States as a means of 4th generation warfare. And it was a planned, destructive thing. And I'm going to read a little sample out of it, and then I'm going to make a comment. But it says, schools and colleges already grappling with the demands to teach both multiculturalism and Western civilization may come under further social and cultural pressures as demographic tide advances. According to some, these forces at work are the new form of Marxism, cultural Marxism, which is organized and led by those intent on a cultural revolution. And it goes on for a whole bunch of it. And it says that we the result of having the country that we have and the education we have, the result of that is the trivialization of American culture, emphasized by consumer gratification, pop culture, cartoons, noise, color, and entertainment over serious reflection. Ultimately, the clash remains between multiculturalism and defenders of Western civilization and the American creed. So like pretty much says that like the whole thing was to bring in so much multiculturalism that we don't have any character of our own as a culture. And then it starts to fall apart as a society. When there is no identity, the society falls apart. So it's a means of destroying a country if you really wanted to. And so this is a really detailed paper that looks into like history behind how this has been done before in other cultures going back thousands of years. And they do cite some really good, data to support their claims. But the way I see it, because I'm multi-race, I'm literally Carmen Sandiego genetically, and I love it. Of course, I have nothing wrong with the way I look. But when it comes to mixing, which I think is the politically correct term for going between races, it seems like I think we're just now getting used to it as a culture. Like, I don't think people understand that mixed race is still the smallest minority in the country. Like, it's still the smallest. It's the quickest growing right now, but it's still the smallest. Hey, Rosie, calm down. Sorry, my puppy. Like, she gets freaked out by the cat. And but anyways, the idea that like we've been mixing cultures a lot in the United States really hasn't been going on in mass for that long. I live in the state of Virginia, and the state motto is Virginia is for lovers, right? And it's not because like this place is where people meet and fall in love. That's horseshit. That'd be cool, but it's not the case. It's called that because of a very famous case that was tried in, I think, the early 1900s at some point, between a man whose last name happened to be Love and a woman he wanted to marry who was Black, and he was a white sharecropper. She was Black, and they wanted to marry, and it was not allowed yet. And so when they won that case to have legal claim for their marriage, that's when they made the statement that Virginia is for lovers, because it set the bar kind of for desegregating marriages. And so that was a beautiful thing, and it's a historical, but that was not that long ago. That was like within my mom's lifetime. It was not like, maybe my grandma. Like, it's really 2 generations. It's not a long time for that to be, the case. So I think it's so new that people are very sensitive to it. When there's change, and such a big change, it is a bit startling. And I fully support people that are of any skin color wanting to maintain people that are similar to them. I don't see any problem with that, because one of the number one problems I think human beings face is the need to fit in, the need to feel like they have an identity. And it's like part of psychiatric disorders to not have that. Like, look at borderline personality disorder or dissociative identity disorder. These are identities that are struggling to grasp where they fall in line in life. Like, they don't know where they belong. And that's a huge problem to you mentally and emotionally. It's very stressful. So like, I completely understand. It was horrible for me growing up. Me and my brother were the only mixed kids in the county, and together we made the only Black kid in town. So like, there was nobody who looked like me growing up. Like, nobody. I couldn't identify. And my mother is white with blonde hair, blue eyes. And, so that's what I knew. And it was very confusing, and I had serious identity issues because of it. So for people that are already mixed in this country, you will have to consider what they feel. And it is a little bit lonely. Like, I'm grateful I have a goddaughter who's mixed, and she comes to me with every question about how to do her hair right and why she doesn't look like everyone else. And it's like, it's a lovely thing to talk to her about it, because I didn't have that. But I think it's just this assimilation process. And I do think that there's got to be a line, because I do want white people to exist. My mother's white. She's my favorite person on earth. She was the best, right? But I also want Black people around. And I also want, Mexicans and Haitians and Creole, and I want it all. But there's got to be, sensitivity, I guess, to caring if people choose to be within their own color. And I faced this before dating. In fact, it was the last horrible instance in my life of dating where, I've dated people that they've broken up with me because of my skin color, because their parents don't approve. And that's happened actually twice in my life. And I'm less bitter about it now than, of course, I was at the time. At the time, I was mortified and like heartbroken. But now that I've grown up and I realize like families are complicated, culture is complicated, religion's complicated. And, it's part of being human to just kind of deal with certain things. And I think if anyone has the ability to overcome multicultural problems, it's the United States. I think that we're the best primed to deal with it. I think other cultures, like what you see in the UK with all the Muslims going up there, they're freaking out because England's been England for like 5,000 years. They haven't really been, they've had more, I would say more mixing than us for a longer period of time, but they've also been around a longer period of time. They've had a lot of work with, surrounding areas. We were pretty isolated for the most part. And so we're just dealing with this again. And people forget, like, this didn't always start out just America with Protestant settlers. We had Native Americans here, and they had to deal with this assimilation problem too. So it's just a continuation of change that I think is very abrupt. And it is a bit scary. Like, I get it. Like, I don't want everyone to look the same. I want everyone to be with who they want to be with. I just wish there was a way that we could figure it out better.
Well, no, I think you just hit on a lot of great points, and I think that that's one of the things that I actually changed the title and I put morality in quotes because every their own kind of viewpoint on morality, and I think that we're starting to see what some people see as good morality, some people see as bad, and I think you said if it can be dealt with, the United States has the best chance of doing it. I think if is the operative word there. So with that said, real fast, before we move on, because obviously it's going to get a little bit heated, probably there's going to be some really differing of opinions tonight on some of these things, but we're just going to try to hammer it out and see what we come up to. And that's what we do on Wednesday night, baby. Wednesday Night Lightning. So before we go,
can we make a disclaimer? Everyone, we love each other. Everyone in here loves each other.
That's right.
From the bottom of their heart, okay? From the bottom of their white, black, brown, gray heart, okay? It doesn't matter. We're not going to get offended in here because that's for lames, and we're not going to do that. Okay, we're just going to have an honest discussion, and I trust you guys because you're all intelligent creatures.
Quick no lames. We all want to be hot people in here, just only for the hots right now. So before we get going, down at the bottom right, there's that pill. Listen, I know that everybody just says, I'm going to blow it off, ain't going to do it, but just for fun, just tonight. This is the only night that you'll ever have to do this in the next 3 years. This is the only time. That's what's amazing about it. Just hit that retweet, hit that repost. Really
easy
quick.
Payments of $39.99.
It's so easy. You know what? We're not even going to make you pay for it. We're going to let you do it for free. It's going to make you so hot. Yes, people are going to see that you retweeted, and they're going to say that guy's so hot. He's so Hansel. He's so hot right now. Little Zoolander. Nobody got that. It's okay.
Retweet it. It hits the algo harder.
Don't tweet it.
The algo harder.
Done. There we go. Right there. Piece of cake. Des, I got to step away. Something we talked about earlier. So you and May go and have at it. And I'll be back in just a few minutes. And let's get some people in here and let's get racist. It's not Skywalker. It's a Star Trek reference. You dumbass.
Easy.
Star Trek.
Because I was going to ask all the hosts and co-hosts, like, what are your guys' backgrounds before you leave?
Backgrounds of what?
Like ethnic backgrounds. Because you say multicultural.
I'm literally everything but South American. I've got Asian, African, European, everything.
We'll go to Florida and change that.
I've got Elizabeth of Irish in me there. And so I'd say Irish and a bit of Caucasian. Pretty much all Caucasian there with the Irish.
What about you, Destiny?
I'm everything. Everything but Latin. I don't have any Latin American in me, but everything else.
What the hell? I thought you were Latin. Like, I thought you were Latina.
Everyone thinks I'm Latina, and it makes me feel so good because Latina women are beautiful. So thank you.
Like, come on, that's a Latin last name.
No, that's my ex-husband's last name, and I kept it because it's sexy. I left him because he wasn't, but I kept I'm kidding. That's not why. But I kept the last name because it is sexy.
Word.
Yeah, I'm full of it. All right. Okay, Chris Philby, your hands up. How's it going, Chris?
Well, we love you, Des, and as a fellow Virginian, that's required. So, you lost your co-host, but anyway, assimilation in our country has been an issue for a long time in terms of different cultures coming here and not taking on an American culture. We didn't really have that problem. Up until the immigration waves that happened after, I think, Vietnam. Previous to that,
bro, you're bad for
people
business. Did you
come
take some
here.
sort of sedative or something? He's bad for business.
Chris, you're making a point for us, right?
Ivy,
Yeah.
do.
Do I have to talk at 100 miles an hour to be able to make my point to people that came over here?
No,
No,
Came over
absolutely
on the boat.
not.
And the people that came over on the boat, they you know, their generations, after the first generation, those people became Americans and they learned how to speak English and spend US dollars. And the people that are coming over here today, they make their own damn communities and they make their own radio stations and they print their own newspapers and they make their own TV stations and they speak their own language. And they segregate themselves from our society. Is that fast enough for your ass? Or drive?
Chris is gonna bite. Chris is gonna bite you.
My own point.
You're telling us to get our shit together and start making a presentation,
What the
I
hell?
suppose, right?
You're not running this. You're not running this piece of what the hell are? But you know, whatever. I'm out of here. The hell with this.
No, I got fired up. Thank you. I mean, yeah, no, I heard
Nobody
it.
getting fired up. Okay, what did I say? That was the first disclaimer I had in the space was we're not going to get offended people. But no, like 5 seconds into the space, we're going to get offended people. You guys are crazy. Okay, you know what? We're just going to. I don't have one of those singing bowls like Maze has.
Oh, stop it. We don't need that. He was.
Ding. You know what I mean?
Ding.
There we go. There we go.
This
Go
hands.
ahead, Ryan, since you're already on mic.
Well, no, Mike is really professional. I know his office and what he's trying to produce here. So I'm going to just hang out. Actually, I want to see if I can say something like of value. The question at the title, though, it could be, but I'm not going to allow it from my point of view. It's a collective effort to not let anything destroy our morality. So, like, I'm going to stay firm with what I know morality to be and then kind of like mix into this, you know, pool that we have. I love this ability to speak with everyone. Like, it's really nice, actually.
No, I think it's wonderful. And I think, you know, the multiculturalism that goes on here in spaces, like people I don't know if they consider it, but like, I've never had any one race crowd, no matter what the topic was.
Can we get into the human race? Like, do we have to make that standpoint, the human race? Like,
no, of course, only humans. I'm not going to talk about like breeds of dogs here. We're talking about human beings. 100%.
I've seen whites only spaces though.
yeah, no,
I've
that's
been
like
in those.
yeah,
I've been in black only spaces as well, and you know, we've had these discussions, and those are more of the, I would say, emotionally heated kind of rooms, because somebody will come in there to say something just to be that asshole. And by the way, it's like trolls, like, we don't know what you're doing, and I'm sorry that you don't have more of a life than this. But they go in there and what they do is they'll say some outlandish shit, just drop it like it's super nonchalant. You know, like, I think all blacks should be sitting on porches eating, you know, bananas. It's like, whoa. Well, you know, some asshole will just come in there and say some like illiterate shit, essentially, just this worthless crap. And they do that, and the next thing you know, everyone's fighting and calling each other the N-word and it's cracker. It's just crazy. It's just bullshit. So we're not going to do that. I think, you know, we can handle ourselves like adults.
bring us back to peace again, and then you have a bunch of hands, so I'm going to shut up too.
No, yeah, I'm going to hands. Go ahead, decentralize.
Hey guys.
Buongiorno, mi chiamo Destino.
Oh,
Mi italiano
buonasera.
fino molto bueno.
Buonasera. So yeah, I wanted to talk one moment about what Chris just said before, that a group of people came into whatever country, immigrate in any country, and started to make groups and literally ghetto, printing out their own papers and do literally whatever the heck they want without even caring about the nation where they're standing in. Right now I'm living in Netherlands. Netherlands, I don't know if you know, guys, but is a way multicultural nation, but in the way that it's unbelievable. And even Dutch people basically cannot say nothing against, because automatically we are labeled as racist, intolerant, anti-Semite, whatever thing you might try to say in an opposite direction of the mainstream, let's say, you will be automatically labeled in the worst ways possible. So to answer to the title of the space, yeah, I would say, at least here in Europe, is really destroying the morality of the citizens itself. And it started to be extremely annoying, because I cannot even say like, okay, I go back to my own country, to Italy, because it's even worse. I cannot go to France. I cannot get, sorry my language, the fuck out from here, because wherever I go is the same shit. And that's also why I'm trying to, learn a bit of the American culture, because yeah, as a European, and sadly I never been to US, I start to get curious, and especially lately with the first attempt to Trump and so on. Sorry guys, as for me, all the situation worldwide is start to be a nonsense. Simple as that. Anyway, thanks Mike for and thank Destiny and May for the space. Really love for it. Thank you for the time you gave me.
Wait, real quick.
Oh wait, go ahead. What was that?
May, I was gonna say, because May didn't get a chance because I think she dropped. Mike and Destiny said like what their cultural ethnic background is. What is yours?
Yeah, mine. I born in Italy.
No, I was asking May, but actually yours is good too. Go ahead.
He said he's born in Italy, I think, right?
Yeah, born in Italy. I left Italy in 2010. I moved to Czech Republic in Prague, actually because I met a girl, and I stuck there for almost 10 years, 8 years and a half, if I'm not mistaken. And then I decided to move to Netherlands, basically because of job. The salary is a bit better, but I didn't realize that the life itself sucks, because I don't know how to explain it, but in Czech Republic, the life, it's a way easier than in Netherlands. In Netherlands, if you have no money, you forget to live. In Czech, you still have a bit of chance to survive. And regarding my family, well, my father is an anti-capitalist, anti-American, pro-Russia, pro-Stalin, and I became literally the opposite of him. My mother she doesn't care about politics and so on. So, this is my short version of my background.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
If May is back, May, you there?
I am. I'm here.
Okay, you are.
It's cutting in and out for me. I'm not sure what the hell's going on, but I'm trying to.
Space has been glitchy today. I've noticed.
Oh, has it? Okay. I was wondering if it's me or what's going on, but
yeah, it's you.
Okay.
But
good to know.
Okay, well, what's your background, May? We're trying to guess.
My background?
Lineage here. Yeah.
I can't hear. I don't know why. But what do you mean by background?
Tell us about you.
Your racial background.
Like if you took a 23andMe right now, what
oh
would
my
it come
God.
out and say?
I cannot hear you, Destiny. I'm sorry.
Oh
Mike Mac, can you unmute?
Can I?
What the hell?
Okay, I'll just DM you the question.
I don't know what's happening. I tried to reset the app. I tried to reset my phone.
Am I heard? Is my voice audible?
Yes, sir.
I can hear you. May, what phone are you using?
No, I was gonna help May to. Anyway, all right.
I'm back. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay, well,
Same
now
here.
May's been dropped, and now I'm co-host. we're settling back in, everybody. Just hold your horses. We'll get back to May when she's back up here. And in the meantime, I was going to jump over and say hi to Alpha, since Alpha rarely graces our spaces. How you doing, Alpha? Wait. Can Alpha not hear me?
I can't hear him, so.
Alpha, you're being addressed. Can you hear?
Okay, but in the meantime, I know how to summon him. Listen, it's singing.
I don't think you can hear me either.
Hey, Alpha, can you hear me? Alpha can. Well, dadgummit. Somebody can you hear me?
No,
Mike. This thing is going glitchy.
I'm
hard.
doing singing bowls.
Mike, handle it.
Yeah, that's not gonna work.
Okay. No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
You can hear me though, yes?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, good. So let me ask one thing before we get Alpha back up here. He was talking about growing up in the in the Czech Republic and being involved in that kind of area, with his mom and stuff like that. And I'm thinking to myself, if I moved to Russia, or if I moved to somewhere over there in Europe, it could be England, France, whatever it is, my first thought would be, I'm going to do my best to adapt to that culture, right? That's just in my instinct, is that if I move to China, or if I move to Japan, I'm going to try to adapt to their culture, be as pro as I can for them. I'm not going to go over there and say, I'm going to fight for free speech in China. I have to understand this is the culture that I'm in at that point for whatever reason. But over here, I don't know if people come over here and they purposely want to instill their culture, or if it's because we have no culture, that it's like, it just seems like it's a free for all. So that's kind of a question I'd love to have answered by anybody that wants to jump in.
I feel like it's just laziness, like pure laziness. Like they don't want to learn the language.
That's really reductive.
Yeah, hold on, Mike. That was a valuable question, Mike. I almost feel like you have to ask that again. Alpha's back up here though with his hand up.
Okay, guys, we're not going to talk over each other. Okay, hands up. I don't even know who that was addressed to at this point. But Alpha's back up here. So Alpha, how you doing? Can you hear me this time?
Yeah, no, I could hear you guys the whole time. I just couldn't unmute, so I left and came back.
Oh, okay. Well, weird.
Yeah, but no, I could actually hear everybody that was talking. I saw the title of the space. I said, "Let's go," and then I came in and saw that there was some triggering going on. So I was like, "I'm all about it," because I'm at a age in my life at 45, and I'm at a point in my country where I don't give a shit. The stuff I say is going to hurt your feelings. So it is what it is. Humanity is important. Yes, I understand there's ethical and moral obligations, but there's also common sense. People need blood. And when we go to the blood bank, there's only so much they can take from us. And then you have to go back and you have to rest and you have to let your body heal and produce blood so you can do it again. If you just stayed at the blood bank and just kept giving blood and blood and blood because everybody needs it, eventually you're going to run out and die. And that's where our country's at right now. The faucet's never been turned off. We have criminals and freeloaders that are coming to this country. So multiculturalism isn't destroying our country. Illegal multiculturalism is destroying our country. You know, the gentleman that sounded like he got upset earlier is when you bring your culture to America, no one's asking you to forget it, but you're acclimating to America. And what Mike was saying, I think it was you, Mike, that was saying it right now, that you have people that are not wanting to do that. They want to make America little factions of something else, and you need to leave if that's the case. Even if you're legal and you feel that way, then you should probably bounce and go back to wherever it is that you're trying to turn into here. That this country is America. And, you know, when right there, I'm in Southern California, and the shit that just irritates the hell out of me is when I go to a restaurant or a store or a place and they automatically start talking to me in Spanish. So I just start talking in English, and they'll talk in Spanish, and I'll talk in English, and I won't stop. I'll keep talking in English because this is America, and that is our language. It's English. If you want to go home, if you want to go with your friends, if you want to go to your families, and you want to speak other languages, go by all means, have at it. You want to know multiple languages, go for it. You probably have a high IQ. Shout out to Hitchslap. But when it comes to the fundamentals of this country, it's English. So acclimate to it. And, you know, I understand there's a lot of people, well, this country belonged to this one, and this country, it got conquered. It got conquered. That's the way all these countries across the entire globe since the dawn of the biblical times have established themselves. So if that's your issue, then try to conquer it back. See how it works out for you. But until you're able to pull that off, it's America. So you can maintain your culture, take the ass whooping like a man or a woman, and acclimate to something new, or complain about it and leave. Like, you know, if that hurts people's feelings, have at it. I've been told, oh, you're a sellout to the Mexicans in Mexico. I don't care. I'm not from Mexico. I'm from the United States. Oh, you're a sellout, you know, to Spain and all that from your mom's side. That's fine. I'm in America. If I offended someone in Mexico, okay. If I offended someone in Spain, okay. If I offended people in America, it's probably just because I'm more American than you. How's that? So you got me fired up, Mike and Destiny. So I'm here about it. Hopefully I pissed some people off. That way we can find out who's American and who's not.
Here's the sound bowls for you. Here we go.
Oh boy, here we go.
Okay. We're done with that. Now I think you brought up some good points that, like, when I hear, like, if I call a number and it's got like the automated voice and the first thing it says is like in Spanish, I'm like, what is this kind of ripoff? You know, because I'm that stupid kid whose mom was like, I don't know, she had weird aspirations for me. So she made me take French instead of Spanish because French people are crossing the border every day, Mom. It makes a lot of sense. Well, I'm going to need this language. But everyone sees me and they think I'm Latin. So like, if I'm walking down the street, some guy will like holler out of his car something in Spanish to me, and I'm like, you have no idea how far off base you are. I have literally no idea. Did you say taco? Because I don't know anything else. I barely eat Taco Bell. Like it's gross. So you know, I love Mexicans, but I don't speak Spanish. But everyone thinks I do, and I don't at all. But it is frustrating because it's like this is our life, and I know that we started off as the melting pot of the world. I understand that concept, but it's a bit much to kind of expect it from people, to expect that you're this other language. And it's like, you are in the United States and our base language.
You know, to that point though, Destiny, and I think that's actually a lazy cop-out answer when people say, well, this country started off as a melting pot. So when you go to build a house, you build the foundation. And you don't keep building the foundation over and over and over. Then you build the walls, you build the roof, and you go on from there. So just because the country started that way doesn't mean that the country has to continue that way.
I agree.
At some point, people got to recognize it is America. Get with it or leave.
I've never heard someone say that. It's a good point.
Yeah, get back to that foundation, Alpha.
Destiny, what do they say to you? Curious. Do they say, God bless you, mommy? Something like that?
Stuff like that. Yeah, often, you know, there's a lot of whistling involved, but that's in English, I think. So there's some of the message gets relayed over correctly. But anyways, go ahead, Jeremiah. I see your hands up. And by the way, Jeremiah's got the most lovely voice. Go ahead, Jeremiah. Now I've embarrassed you fully.
So glad I got my own. So glad that I can see my life's a natural high. The man can't put no thing on me.
That's actually, you know, it's funny. That's a little bit of Curtis Mayfield, who actually I was thinking about in regard to this discussion. There's a song, I forget the title of the song. I'm literally going through YouTube right now trying to find the song that you should play because it's great for this space, where he starts out by talking and he says, you know, I've traveled around the world and, you know, I've found that people are the same no matter where you go. They shed similar tears, have similar fears, and die in so many years. And that's been my experience, having had the privilege of performing in a lot of different countries with a lot of different artists and a lot of different ensembles. Not right now. So. We're not gonna die soon.
Oh, that was coming. You really
Sorry,
had to lay that on us.
her brother is obsessed with death, and now he's passed on the obsession. He's like, why do we have to die? And you know, all these kind of questions.
Oh my
That's
god,
so
that's
cool.
adorable.
That's
But
deep.
also-
Getting like a Valley of the Dead or something, you know, like something cool. Like
It's really incredible how they talk about it. But there's a lot of things I have to say about this subject. You know, I mean, first of all, I agree with the Curtis Mayfield statement. I think most people are pretty good folks. I think that people are getting into a really wrong type of state of mind when they're trying to blame any particular group on the world's problems or their personal problems. Like I'm seeing a lot of these immigrants in New York City, for example, and I see a lot of mothers with their children and people whose circumstances I do not take lightly, you know, and I empathize with these people. I wouldn't want to be in the subways trying to sell packets of gum with my kids in a foreign land. You know, I'm not a big believer in the term illegal alien in the first place. I don't think any person should so-called be illegal for their geographical position on the planet. If I wanted to move to another country, I would like it to be an easy process. I would like to be able to just move to another part of the world if I wanted to. But all that being said, there needs to be, under the current guidelines of nation states and whatnot, we have to have some kind of standards in terms of immigration, in terms of documentation. You can't have criminals flooding into your country. You can't have millions upon millions of people flooding into your country. Whatever is going on now is something else. The Democrats never even said that this was their policy. They just implemented it. They've hardly even attempted to explain what they're doing. They're just like, oh, everyone could just flood into the country now. They didn't even bother to explain what they're doing. They did not suggest they were going to do this. Before it was the dreamers, you know, people who are already in this country, let's get their paperwork sorted out. At no point did they say, we're just going to let millions upon millions of people simply flood into the country, which appears to me to be a part of some effort to destabilize our society, basically an ongoing process of destabilization. They're overwhelming police forces, cities where there's already unbelievable levels of homelessness, crime. So now you're introducing tons of new gangs and just new people into the environment that's already not safe. It's already somewhat chaotic. One reason I think for all of this is I think that, and I've said this in other spaces, I think they're trying to cover up the depopulation agenda that they're carrying out. I think they cannot allow us to observe the interval where the American population drops from 330 million to 325 million. And they said, oh, how about, 20 to 30 million people can just kind of flood in here to cover up for the 5 million missing people who dropped dead after the killer vaccine.
Let me ask you a question, because you're on a really great point. Did you find it also kind of strange that 2020 just so happened to be the year of like the most aggressive census that I've like ever experienced? Do you remember that? Was I the only one that remembers them being very aggressive, that census?
That's a good point. I can't say that I share that memory, but I bet you're correct. One thing that I will add here quickly before I pass the ball is, I have been a student of foreign policy over the years. I've been a critic of U.S. foreign policy in particular. We have kind of a serial killer mentality to world affairs. We arbitrarily attack other countries. We violate international law like it's absolutely nothing. Every post-World War II American president could arguably be hanged as a war criminal by the exact same standards that we used to try the Nazis. If you tell people that, for example, Barack Obama is a mass murderer, they'll be like, what do you mean? They're like, what do you mean? He bombed 7 different countries. He annihilated the sovereign African nation of Libya, which people don't view it in this context. These are historical atrocities. These are the acts of a mass murderer. And unfortunately, we could go down the list of the war crimes of the various presidents. So all I'm trying to say is, let's not play naive. Let's not act completely ignorant to world affairs and to history and just say, oh, well, these people, they just want to come to our country because we're rich and we have such a great country and their country is lousy, so they want to come to where we are. The United States has been meddling in world affairs to an unbelievable extent. The history of Mexico. People don't understand NAFTA overturned an article in the Mexican Constitution. At the stroke of a pen, it was almost a civil war in Mexico. I mean, we could get into the whole history of the Zapatista movement in Chiapas and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, guns have flooded into Mexico to the extent that you would think there's a world war in Mexico, and it's U.S. military. Fast and Furious is like is one little branch of a much bigger tree that has. I mean, we're talking about weapons that go back to Iran-Contra that are now in the hands of the worst cartels in Mexico. There's a lot of Mexican people who they'd rather live in Mexico, y'all. I've toured in Mexico. Beautiful beaches, beautiful. They'd rather be where they are, but there's cartels who in some cases have taken over entire regions of the country and they have U.S. military issued weapons. How did they get them? People need to look into Mike Levine. Mike Levine, who was the host for many years of the Expert Witness radio show. You could track that down. It's absolutely incredible. He wrote a book called Deep Cover. He wrote a couple other books. I forget the titles, like the Big White Lie, I think was another one. But Mike Levine, you can look him up, was involved in what was supposed to be the largest undercover drug bust in world history. And his cover got blown by the U.S. Attorney General, Edwin Meese, at the time, who warned the Mexican Attorney General about the Operation Trifecta. And the Attorney General of Mexico was the target of the operation. He's on video saying that he's going to arrange for all these conditions for massive transporting of drugs by the ton into the United States. It was on video, and instead of the arrest being made, the whole thing was blown. Mike Levine is lucky to be alive. He had to escape with his life instead of ever doing what they call the interdiction. But yeah, you know, the annihilation of Libya, pumping arms into Mexico. You could go down a long list of things that have destabilized a coup, CIA-sponsored coup in Venezuela a couple years ago. Now Venezuelans want to come here. Like, we need to start connecting the dots and stop having this naive concept of like, we're so great, everyone just wants to be like us. Oh, and one last point about that, I'm sorry to go on, but there used to be conditions such that Mexican workers were coming to the United States and going home. They were working in the United States doing major construction projects and going home. And somehow they've changed the laws so that human movement has been more restricted and corporations can move their commodities across borders with almost no regulation, but human beings are more regulated than before. When a lot of Mexicans, they didn't want to live here. They come here, work, and go home, and we've made that impossible. We've made it so if you come here, it's a one-shot deal. It's your whole life that you have to commit to crossing the border. When just, hey, let them work and go home. So sorry to go on, but a lot of things on my mind about this subject.
You know, that last point was amazing. I kind of want to talk about it more, but I want to touch on something you said.
Ivy, I was going to come in like.
I actually have heard of that before, Jeremiah.
They used to have passes
really
too.
Interesting.
They used to have passes specifically for that. But you know, Jeremiah, the problem.
Hey, Mike, if I could come in real quick, like Ivy.
Hold on, everybody, calm down. We're not going to be doing interrupting. I've warned everyone before. We're not going to do that anymore. But I did want to say, Jeremiah, I think you made a lot of incredible points. And actually, that was one of the first things I thought about was like, look at the damage we've done in other countries. It was the first thought that came to my mind when Haiti started the Haitian problem, right, up in Ohio. And I was like, we really, like, people should read the, like, literal lawsuits that were pressed from the people of Haiti against, like, entities like the Clinton Foundation. And when we were supposed to be there giving them aid, and instead they were literally like raping locals, extorting money. It was not good. And like, we've done horrible things to some of these countries. And for some of them, I'm like, how can you blame them from wanting to get away from the place we destroyed? But, at the same time, it's just like, are we paying for the sins of our government? And if so, like, why would the government continue to do this, knowing that eventually it would have to open the doors to enemies they've created? And that's going to cause cultural issues in the country. There's going to be people who don't want to be American, but they can't go home because America destroyed it. You know, like that's an unfortunate situation to say the least. And I think that is part of the problem for sure. So I wanted to say thank you, Jeremiah. It was a really great point. So I don't know what happened to my co-host, Mike. He's just dropped May because he shit talks her so much.
We're all your co-hosts right now. Go ahead.
Well, go ahead, Andrew.
Oh,
I know you.
Thank you, Destiny, because I really think that America is like the best place to be, like the United States. So I can't really, I think there's a complete psyop, obviously, that's been in place for the last 2 decades, where America, the United States, they pollute all the oceans, and they pollute all the world's everything, and the United States is the most evil place in the world, and the United States, this, that, and the other. And I don't think it's like that. I really don't. I think it's trying to demoralize the U.S. citizens to where they guilt shame them into their own country. There's nowhere else in the world where the people are like ashamed of their country except for the United States, right? Everyone else is so proud of their country. They bring it to every location they're in and they hang their flags. But the United States, you have to feel guilty that you're a United States, citizen. Or meanwhile, like I said, they bring the people in, and it's actually the illegal aliens coming in. They're bringing their cultures in. Where's the American culture? Do we still have an American culture, or there is no American culture? Is that the end of the American culture? What is the American culture?
I want to jump in here so bad.
Go ahead, Ryan, but jump in.
I'm listening to American culture. You are American culture. Mike Mac holding the space is American culture. Us realizing what life is behind us, creating life in front of us is culture. Like, culture to me is the alchemy of our souls being human together. And I don't mean to, Mike, I'm sorry. I mean, I could step on this, but I don't want to step on it. Like, I know I'm with a crowd. Anyway, I'm going to shut up.
Ryan, let me jump back in real quick if you guys don't mind. I mean, Jeremiah was saying down there before that he's not okay with the term illegal alien. Well, how about, are you okay with the term invader? Our country is getting invaded, and I don't care what you say about your terminology, because we need to get to the terminology of invader. It's not even illegal alien. They're invaders. They're storming our borders. They're coming into our communities, taking our resources, and the minorities and other people are getting hit the hardest. But let's get the term straight. Jeremiah, let's get the term straight.
Andrew, if I will, on that comment, like it's hard to say that like invader is a term that you're going to use when we have a country that our government is the one paying, propagating,
exactly
people in here. What?
No, Destiny, continue.
Okay. Well, all I was saying is that there's all these people that are coming over that are being brought over. They're being told to come. They're making deals for them. They're enticing them with a whole bunch of money. How are you not going to, take that up if your country is struggling and you see a chance out? But there's like, were they invaders? Were African Americans during the slave trade invaders? Were they?
No, there's traders, then they're invaders. If you take the money,
well, African American slaves weren't traders either, though. You know what I mean? But like they were brought over, and so they weren't considered invaders. Because why? Because they were considered useful tools and objects. But when they're considered human beings, then it's considered invading, and it's just a bit strange.
Well, I think there's a difference though between bringing someone to a country against their will and somebody collaborating with the government. Just because if a hitman hires somebody to commit a murder, just because the person that paid for it didn't commit it, they're both still guilty of a crime. Our country is facilitating the crime. That's not a pass. No matter how bad someone's story is, it's not a pass to break the laws of this country. Now, the kids or the women and children that are being kidnapped and brought over here, I'm not calling them criminals. I'm not calling them invaders, because those are victims of trafficking.
And that's a huge
but the
problem,
people that
are a huge part of it.
No, it is a huge problem. But that's still not the 15 to 30 million that are choosing to come over here illegally. They are criminals. The second they cross American land, they are criminals.
Right. And that gets into the whole asylum of everything, like, whether or not we're giving these people asylum. And the question comes, if it's government sanctioned, and this is what I think it really comes down to, is like, what are we allowing our government to do and not to do? I think it's really what it comes down to, because I think everyone agrees we need to have like borders. That's the basic tenet of being a country, right? Like you need.
Can I ask Alpha a question? Like, so the reason why the reason why they're showing up is different than the reason why our country is allowing them in.
Repeat that one more time. I'm not sure I'm tracking.
So they're showing up to our borders, right? Is that because our country allowed that, or is that because of a possibility for their lives type of thing? I'm dancing on
it's a combination.
Really, yeah.
It's a combination of multiple reasons. Are there people that are entering the United States illegally with good intentions? Of course there are. Still criminal action. Are there people that are trying to are there people trying to enter the United States because they're trying to flee danger? Then do it, but then go through our asylum process, the correct process.
Perfect.
Go to a port of entry.
Perfect. Yeah.
There's a way to come into this country where it allows us to vet the people coming into this country.
What if the point of entry is deceived by the powers that be right now? You know what I mean?
No.
All right. So when we go through the systems, right? The systems, or I'm imagining myself as a Mexican trying to come into the country, right? I'm going to be working with the establishment's rules. But that's not the way that we look at life. No, I'm seeing complications, not between you and I, but with the system that we're working with. So,
well, no, it's a failed system, and most of the reason that it's failing is if you look at a lot of stuff that Mayorkas has passed during his tenure, it was already a broken system. He was literally trying to make this system collapse. And if you look at some of the statements Kamala has made in her interviews, she's made the statement of, we just need to get rid of it and start over. They just want to give that pass. Like it's okay for Americans to come out and say they're trying to change the demographics of this country in a way that no longer reflects what the majority of this country wants. And they're trying to change that. So this way you have a majority, or at least a large enough minority, to challenge the existing citizenry. I mean, look at this. You have Newsom in California that says it's illegal to go put out this meme. Meanwhile, look at all the illegals come to this country. He's not trying to establish anything. The people that have come into this country illegal, especially in the last 3.5 years, but not just the last 3.5 years, have more rights and are looked at as a priority opposed to American citizens. And every American should have issue with that.
Okay, real quick, Alpha, you just hit it on the head with one of the things that I've tried drilling into people's heads on here, which is something called democratic backsliding. One of the tenets of democratic backsliding is that the policies and legislation and the needs in the country are starting to get crafted towards specifically minority groups over the majority. And it's literally a tactic used to destroy a democracy. It is one of the best ways to start lowering the morale of a country really quickly. And like, you're absolutely right. And we are in the midst of democratic backsliding. This is like an admitted by political strategists. Like, this is something that we're definitely undergoing. And you're absolutely right. Like 100%. I don't know whose hand was next because I've lost my place now and I can't see how the hands.
I was going to go, and actually, Destiny, I wanted to ask you a question to that point that you just made and to the point that Alpha made as well. Would you say that it's like, because sometimes the word like standard kind of gets brought up a lot. When we treat people to a specific standard. And I think in this conversation, in regards to the point that was made that, the illegals are given more rights than actual citizens of this country. Do you think that the powers that be within this country that are facilitating this hostile takeover, do you think that they're treating citizens they're holding citizens to a higher standard than they are, the illegal aliens that are flooding our borders? What do you think?
No, no. Are you saying that's why they're not giving people the United States citizens as many, liberties as the immigrants? Is that your? Is that what you're arguing?
Well, I think it's part of it in a way. I think what they're kind of viewing it as, and this is just kind of like from my 1,000-foot analysis, if I was kind of in their position, how I would kind of analyze it, right? So you have an illegal alien and he's from a completely different country. He didn't grow up in our American schools. He didn't, grow up around an American family. He didn't grow up with our culture. So he's from a foreign nation that we probably haven't been to ourselves, or I haven't been to myself. And
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But listen. So here's the problem with that. The reason that immigration is a problem to begin with is because the people that we're bringing.
Can anyone else hear me?
May,
I
you
can hear.
just glitched out really hard and everyone missed the last 10 seconds what you said.
That's the Holy Spirit.
I don't know why it's doing that. Can y'all hear me now? Is it good?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So the reason that it's a problem, immigration is a problem, is because the people that are coming over here they should be bringing over people that should be lifting up society. Like that's the issue. And you're arguing that we should be incorporating these people who are, not educated in the same way, don't understand the culture. Is that, and that's why Americans are held to a higher standard and deserve less help and less assistance, because the immigrants that don't get it in their countries don't have that same level of assistance, and so they need it more than our own country's United States citizens. That just doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
I feel like a problem with this conversation, and Jeremiah made some high IQ points, but immigration doesn't fully encapsulate multiculturalism. Like, there are other people that aren't immigrants that those groups have issues too. Like native groups, they have issues with alcoholism, things like that. The 6% of Black males do 60% of violent crime. Like, that's kind of a problem too. So there are a lot of groups that are part of multiculturalism. And then, quite frankly, I mean, when we talk about multiculturalism, it's not just minority groups. I mean, the majority group, the white population, also has troubles, right?
Thank you, Ivy. And I see Steph up here, and I want to say, hey, Steph, go right ahead. And then I'm trying to get this good order going. We'll Steph and Layla, Jeremiah Norwood, Andrew.
I think it was DNA.
DNA?
That's me. Okay, so
Yes,
I'm going to
okay.
add absolutely nothing of value to this conversation. I'm going to take it back to when we were talking about.
May, I don't think you can hear her.
Oh,
I can.
When we were talking about learning languages, okay? So you said that your mother told you to learn French, right? I just want to point out in the 4th grade, we were told, okay, you can either learn Spanish, French, or Ojibwe, okay? Because I live in Minnesota, and apparently there's a lot of Ojibwe. And me being the bright 4th grader that I was, a 3rd and a half grader, when you got to pick this shit out, I was like, I want to learn Ojibwe. And my mother was like, that's a fantastic idea.
What is Ojibwe?
It's a Native American language that I remember nothing of because I was in 4th grade. I couldn't tell you one word. Not one.
It sounds like you're speaking it.
I'm not, okay? This is English. So unfortunately, my brilliance was let me learn Ojibwe. And then fast forward to high school, and I was in a very small school. The only thing they offered was Spanish, which was, likely smart on their part because everyone speaks it now. Except for the only thing I learned was Donde están mis pantalones? And
Proof women aren't funny. Right here, live. Proof women aren't funny.
Who the fuck are you?
Yeah, get him, DNA.
How about
It's
you
okay, I
just be
kicked him.
quiet? Okay. Anyways, so all I learned was to ask where my pants are. I haven't had to use it yet. I generally know where my pants are at. But I just want to point out that Destiny, not only, did you go through the whole French thing, just know that at one point I chose to learn Ojibwe and I remembered nothing of it. If you don't think I'm funny, I really don't give a shit. Go make Mike happy by saying the word Pekka. Have a great day.
Stephanie, let me say this real fast, and I'm sorry that I'm kind of quiet right now because I'm a little bit out of range, but I will be back up.
He's creeping on people right now.
I will be. Shut up, Destiny. Don't be telling everybody all my secret stuff. Yes, but I am creeping. We're having a house showing right now, and we're down the street watching these people go in and out of our house. It's very uncomfortable. And I can't use any of my cameras because I'm on this freaking phone with a bunch of people. I just want to say this real fast, and then I'll let you guys have it back. Can you even imagine Stephanie speaking Ojibwe? Oh my God, I don't even know what Ojibwe is, and I would pay.
I want to know
money.
Like,
I do too.
I
want it as a ringtone. Mike, let me tell you something. I'm speaking to you. I'm like, that means my phone's ringing in Ojibwe and with the Minnesota accent.
I'm gonna learn how to say "I found your pants" in Ojibwe and Spanish.
I'm sorry, I couldn't help that.
That's great.
Es
There's any
tengo
Ojibweans
tu
in here, please
pantalones.
request mine.
Tengo tu pantalones.
Tango tu pantalones. Got it.
Taco. Okay, we're getting crazy. I don't know who. Go ahead, Layla. We'll do Layla next. Ladies first. Everyone can be kind. Ladies first. Go ahead, Layla.
Oh, hello. Hi, everyone. It's been a minute. I hope you guys are having a great day. This is a great conversation as usual. So many great points, but I wanted to swing.
Okay, that was 100% my bad. I'm sorry. I'm getting requests and I hit the mute button. Layla, I apologize so much. Sorry, everyone. I suck. You have to unmute.
It's okay. I do it all the time, Destiny. We will wait for the double mute. Layla, we'll wait for you. Yeah, I wanted to swing back to some of the points like Jeremiah brought up earlier around, just listing all of the different things I think that help to motivate the situation where people are seeking asylum, because there's a lot of names around it. There's like illegal immigrants, migrants, asylum seekers. Obviously, that's the program they work under essentially, where they claim asylum. And because it's just so many of them, and we have such a we just have such a loving country, we let them come here and live. And then we obviously set court dates and things like that to prove that they're worthy of asylum much, much later. And I don't know if you guys covered it earlier. I wasn't here earlier, but, essentially that's how they, that's the loophole they go under. Did you guys cover that already? The loophole is, repeat it one more time. Yeah, so they can claim asylum, and then they set the court. I think we did. Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, so, this
They
sort
should
of
claim invader.
the invader. Sorry, I'm gonna keep that one too, Andre. That was good.
Andrew.
Okay, sorry. So I wanted to point out, one of the things that I think is really interesting when I look at these sort of emotion-driven narratives that are put out, because obviously we have the NGOs, we have the government, we have all the funding, we have to help facilitate all of these things. We have also obviously the destabilization of these other countries that drive the immigration and incentivize people to leave their country to come here because, if you're being bombed or economic hardships, you might want to come to America. And I think about these emotion-driven narratives where it's like you have so much empathy for the person, the family, the kids, like whoever it is. But when we're dealing with these emotion-driven narratives that are pushed by the NGOs, pushed by the media, I always like to circle back and think, okay, but what's the solution? Not necessarily what makes me feel better, but what's actually going to solve the problem of you know, all of the resulting problems of having this mass migration, this like overwhelming amount of influx of people who have different levels of training, different traumas, different language and culture, obviously, because that's the title of the space we're talking about, multiculturalism, and how that's going to, you know, that affects us, that affects America, that affects how we behave, what we're striving for, our personalities, everything. It shapes us. So when I think of these narratives they're pushing and the solutions, sometimes it doesn't feel like the most heartwarming thing. It doesn't feel like, oh, that's so nice. Let's like have them come here, seek asylum, give them interest-free loan to buy a house. Like that makes me feel so nice, right? That makes us feel better, right? But then obviously that is taking away from the resources of the people who are already here. And it destabilizes the country ultimately. So if we're looking at the solution, it doesn't really matter how nice it makes us feel, I think, at the end of the day, to do these certain things. We have to just look at how is it actually going to fix the problem. The problem is people are leaving their country with their families, they're acclimatized to, they've been living for a very long time, let's say. They're leaving their country, they're having to flee and start over in America. Then they're having to take resources and, you know, that's taking away from a country. I mean, our country now has like really bad infrastructure. Every time I feel so embarrassed every time we come here from a foreigner comes here, they're always like, why is everything so old? And I have to remind them it's because I'm in California, so it's like, well, it just costs a lot and we don't have the money for that. We just don't have the money for that. But we have to look at maintaining that balance because we can have sympathy and empathy for all of these people. But at the same time, you're not, just like when you're in an airplane and there's there's turbulence, there's an issue, and you have to put the oxygen mask over yourself. You put it over yourself first, right? You put it over yourself first, and then you help the people around you. And that's not because you're being selfish. It's because if you want to be a leader, if you want to save as many people as possible, including yourself, you have to make sure you have a certain level of stability. And one of the things that I think that's really divisive, and I'm going to land my plane in a second, that's really divisive in politics and just in anything, interpersonal relationships, it's maintaining the sense of balance to understand, I can't keep giving and giving and giving to you, and it's depleting me. Like, I love that I can help you, but look, our kids need to be able to go to schools. We need housing. We need housing so that people who are Native Americans, like native to America, they're born here. People from America can also, have homes and start families and do all of those things so that we can continue to provide that stability for people, regardless.
And Layla, I think you make a really great point. I want to ask you, since you've thought about it from what I think is a really solid perspective, like what would you say is how do we fix this? Because I do believe the identity is like the self need. Like everyone has got to feel that kind of belonging, but there's also this, there's also the way that we have to process things. So like, what would be your recommendation for like solving this problem?
Yeah, you just have to sort of separate yourself away from the emotion of this makes me feel better to do this versus what is actually going to be the most beneficial. It's sort of like, I want to give people, like, if someone you love, you want to make them happy, you want to give them cake, for example, some like sugary foods, but at the same time, that's not going to necessarily be good for them. It's that balance between love and discipline, keeping and maintaining that balance. I don't know if that analogy works, but
no, that's perfect. And I love the airplane one too, because I tell that to people all the time. Yeah. And I think you could extrapolate it beyond just like immigration into families and personal people. Like the first lesson my mom ever taught me, she's like, you're married. Okay, imagine this. She's like, it was like homecoming time freshman year. She's like, okay, imagine this. You're married, you have 2 kids and a husband. Who's the most important person in your family? And I was like, well, my kids, of course. And she goes, no. I was like, well, my husband, now, right, obviously, because my husband's going to help me take care of the kids. And she's like, no. And I was like, well, there's no one else in my family. And she goes, yes, there is. I was like, who, Mom? Like, I was just like getting so angry with her. And I was like, what are you talking about? There's nobody else. I said, the kids, the husband, who else? And she goes, you have to take care of you. Are the most important person in your family, because if you can't take care of you, how can you be expected to take care of your kids and your husband? You can't. And it's very much like that, the airplane thing, and you're right. And I feel like we lost that sense of good humanitarian deeds. It's like right with the Kennedy era, right? Because he started the whole Doctors Without Borders and all this great stuff that we were USAID, where we were actually helping other countries, but only what we had left over to help with. It wasn't like you guys were first. It's we will give you whatever we have left over. And that was the policy for a while until, I don't know exactly when it changed, but I noticed it's definitely changed. I don't know if you want to make a comment on that, but go right ahead.
Yeah, no, it definitely has changed. And we have to remember, America produced such a surplus. You know, we've helped produce such a surplus that we were collectively able to raise the quality of life for the entire globe. Like, that's a serious thing. And that's because we focused on America. We make sure to produce, to make sure to be leaders. And so we can't sacrifice that. We can't just do away with that and think we're going to be fine. You can't starve yourself and just feed other people. But I wanted to make one more note as well that is a good insight and that will help, I think, to explain and reinforce this idea of why it's not necessarily good to only focus on, you know, asylum seekers or immigrants. I put in the pill. They have job programs. 11-week paid programs for asylum seekers so that they can work in the restaurant industry. Now, how many Americans would love to have an 11-week paid program to start a new job? How many? I'm sure a lot. So these things are funded. These people who come here, even let's say the high quality, which I hate how they like define the different people who come to America as like, these are the smart ones, so they're better and they're okay. Like it's kind of dehumanizing. But even the people who are like coming to work in tech jobs, and I work in tech, they're subsidized. They're trained. They're not coming here just knowing everything. So they're giving these people a competitive advantage, unfortunately. And it's not that it's bad to do that if they find value in these people and their insights, but we're losing every time we give. And that's just the end of it. That's all there is to it. And we have to decide, okay, are we going to keep losing and are we gaining enough? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people who would benefit from all of these NGO funding to help, you know, make these people and integrate these people into our culture and into our society without completely collapsing it. And luckily also Gavin Newsom, governor of California, actually just vetoed a bill that would give asylum seekers interest-free loans for homes. I know Americans would like that too. So I hope you guys, I hope that made sense, but really, really important to have the conversation. What? Yeah, he vetoed.
So they won't be given interest-free loans.
Yeah, I'm not sure about all the details, but that was just one route of it. I know that they have that program because these are all NGO, non-government, you know, organizations. They're pushing these things and helping to fund it. Oh, and also I wanted to point out and introduce you guys to my friend Carson. He's down there, Cave Wilmus, and if he requests, I would definitely recommend bringing him up. He's a Gen Zer, and he's not insane. He's like actually really articulate and insightful. And I know you guys love, you know, different perspectives.
You're gonna give May a run for her money.
Oh no, I don't think it's a competition. No, it's just so hard to find. You know, it's so hard to find like quality like Gen Zers. And I'm sorry,
That's
not to be shady.
Is he the guy with the green background?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Okay, yeah. I think he's up here. Can you see him?
Yeah, he's pretty cool. Thank you guys.
Okay, cool. Sure. Okay, I think it was we should go to someone who hasn't spoken yet, right, Destiny? You want to go to like Norwood, or we can go to Carson. He waited a while.
Norwood's fine. Go ahead.
Hey guys, good to see you. I don't think that the conversation about immigration is in any way related to multiculturalism and or how it would destroy or affect or even dictate our collective morality. I'm not saying that either conversation is right or wrong. I just don't think they're related. The issue that we have with immigration is our asylum laws, plain and simple. It's not something that has to be overthought. We are operating under an archaic system that was designed for a few political refugees to stick their hand in the air and say I'm being persecuted. Give you a statistic. In the last 10 years, 8 million Venezuelans have left Venezuela because their country's falling apart. 8 million. Okay, that is an overload to the system. For perspective, the population of Brazil is 255 million. What happens if their country starts imploding? Okay, so we can have a conversation about where our resources are better served. Say, sending money overseas, that's the same as our federal budget for education for the year once a week, or helping prop up an economy that is also technically American. They're just South Americans. But in terms of multiculturalism destroying our morality, American culture is multiculturalism by definition. There are so few things that are uniquely American except for the uniqueness of each one of us. So by definition, to be a United States citizen, regardless of where you came from, you are assigning yourself to a multiculturalism. But how that affects morality, human morality is a unilateral vein throughout the history of our species. There is no evidence ever in recorded history going back to about 11,000 BC that humanity has ever propped up a government or a system or some sort of society where it was legal to kill each other, because the society would collapse. What happens with the adjustments in morality is when you influence a human after birth in a way that by default it wouldn't normally act. You put 2 5-year-olds in a room, doesn't matter what color they are, doesn't matter what religion their parents are, doesn't matter what country they come from, just because we drew imaginary lines in the dirt, they're going to play hide and go seek. You put their parents in the room together, they might try to blow each other up. That's not human morality based on a culture. That is the influence of a poor moral culture influencing humanity. And just by definition, we all understand exactly what they are, assuming that we were free of its negative impact as early as possible. So when you say our morality, I hear all of humanity. Like, unless you have some sort of defect with your brain, like Whitman, the tower shooter in Austin, Texas, that had a brain tumor that was inflicting his mental capacity, and that's why he started shooting people. Like, we by default don't want to hurt each other. We all want our kids to be happy and fed. The morality is a monolith unless you impact it negatively. And you can do it by culture, but most of those cultures are negatively impacted by a religion that is misdefining its tenets, in my opinion. Good to see you guys.
Well worded.
Good to see you.
Yeah, that was well said. I don't know who was next. I feel like Robbie hasn't spoken yet. So Robbie, we will get the new hands first, just because it's the polite thing to do. Robbie, how you doing? Where you at in the world today?
Hey, what's good, sis? Yeah, I'm good, Des. I am in Kansas. Yeah, I went all the way through Utah.
I can't hear Robbie.
Oh, no.
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
If Mike is there, we'll
Oh,
take
okay.
I can hear you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm in Kansas right now, though. I think I seen Dorothy and the Tin Man at this gas station, but it's all good. Yeah, multiculturalism is a big problem for this country, and it's what I've been arguing for quite some time, is that you're not going to fix it. The only way you're going to fix it is to do something that's going to be very unpopular. In order for multiculturalism to really work, there has to be one dominant culture, and then subsequently that means somebody's culture is going to be on the bottom, and it has to be in a hierarchical structure. But since multiculturalism seeks to find this cohesiveness that doesn't exist among cultures, because every culture is not equal, right? Every culture is not the same. And when you have a Western society like ours, and you're trying to blend in Eastern culture, right, mixed in with Western culture, you're going to run into all of these problems, right? And it's not going to work. It's not going to be a cohesive unit, because ideals themselves, even if we share the same idea, right, that's not enough to bind and make a bond with the people. You have to have a sound mind, heart, and soul as well. So multiculturalism is also bad because, take for example, not every culture is open to others, right? Black Americans know this all too well. Rarely do we have other ethnic groups come into our places of business and want to do business with us, right? Or come to our restaurants and want to eat in our restaurants. Yet we are very open because we go out and we know there's Black people that like, Mexican food, various forms of Latin food, right? Asian food and alike. But you won't see that reciprocated back into the Black community, because in Middle Eastern, right, laws, there's some purity laws, and things got to be halal with Jewish people, right? It's got to be kosher. And so if you don't prepare the food a certain way, they won't fuck with you, right? So that's what I'm saying. It's like, unless some of those things dissipate away and where, you're not restricted from integrating into our society, which, right, you have women, right? When I used to teach ESL, I taught a lot of people from Saudi Arabia, Bangladesh, and from those areas. But from Saudi Arabia, I think, was it Saudi Arabia? It might have been. Lady had a full burqa on, but she couldn't shake my hand, right? Because, women can't touch men and shit like that. So I actually had a problem with that. I went and told them, yo, you know what I'm saying? This is not how we do things here. If a person moves into a host country, there are certain things they're going to have to adopt and learn to adapt to. So, people took what I said not as xenophobic, but as reality, right? You come into somebody's house, right? You can't make your own rules up for their house. They tell you to take your shoes off, then out of respect for their home, you take your shoes off, right? You abide by the host home or the host country's laws, which trumps your particular, I would say, small L laws, right? That you may exercise in your home country. So it's not wrong to tell other people from other walks of life that, hey, we respect you. We respect your, even your religion or your customs and stuff like that. But to a certain degree, up until this point, this is where our customs and our culture will trump those, okay? And you can't be offended by that. Either you rock with that or you know the way home, right? We got to start being very hot and cold with people now, man, because we're not going to have a country if we continue to let this go on. And the last point I'll make is this. There was a story I just read about a young woman. She had her son in daycare. They told her that she's going to need to hire a tutor to teach her son Spanish, because all the kids in there, all they speak is Spanish, right? This is an American daycare. So that's the problem I'm talking about. That's going to eventually overtake everything in a minute if we're not too careful.
I made it back, Des, right as my man Robbie was talking. Got to hear that. It's unbelievable. He jumped the gun and he used my take off your freaking shoes analogy. I've been waiting for about 20 minutes to jump in here with the what would you do if you went to somebody else's house and had to take off your shoes. And freaking I come back and Robbie's already stealing it. That's bull crap, bro.
All right, you can use the pimp coat analogy.
You can, take off, freaking wear my pimp coat. God dang it. I'm flustered now. I can't help it. What I don't, let me ask you this, Robbie, and it goes to a point you were just making. So you were saying, you were talking about, when they come over here, they have to adhere to our culture, who we are, and things like that. But look, in the last two schools that I've been in before this one is different, right? The last two schools that I was in, it was Title I, inner city type, well, suburban-ish, but more, it's hard to explain, Title I. And I could not get the kids to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Now imagine if you're coming over here and everybody stands to say the pledge and nobody says it, and half the people don't even stand up. And there's the freaking flag, right? Like that, I've gotten in trouble numerous times because of that. So I guess what I'm asking is, what is our culture that we can totally degrade the United States flag, that we don't have to adhere to it, that we can call a former president a threat, and then literally call that threat on the phone earlier to make sure he's okay from an assassination attempt, and then go back immediately after that and resume calling him a threat again. Like, what the hell is our culture that we expect people to adhere to? I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out, because that's the most frustrating.
Oh, for sure. I mean, yeah, and speaking in today's terms, without a doubt, brother, you're right. All that they see now is just like, we're at each other's throats and all of this, crazy rhetoric and stuff that, that goes back and forth. And so they've done a great job at slowly draining what American culture was to now you can't, you hard pressed to find it. I found it in one small town though.
Small town.
Good old American culture. And I enjoyed myself. Yep. I really enjoyed myself, man. I had a really great time. It brought back a lot of nostalgic memories for me. But that has long gone now, right? Every big city now is integrated with every city. I mean, you can't go, a few blocks without seeing Chinese food, Indian food, Middle Eastern food, right? You see it's all over the place. Every hotel I stayed at was owned by an Indian, right? And I'm not talking about longevity Indian American, right? I'm talking about just no more than a 6 months to a year, out. Every single one, right? So there's something about culture, right, where you have to take the root word cult, right? It means, it's to be together, or to be of a sound, system together, right? You're in a cult, right? We all together on the same page. And that's what happens, right? Because a lot of cultures are their people first. And the Indians are one of them. So they'll hire their own, right? I come in there and shit, they're going to look the other way. Like, man, who the fuck is you? And I don't even fault them for that, because that's how I believe, right? I believe that we as Americans should be the same way. And that's why a lot of people are pissed that when Trump says like black jobs or whatnot, those jobs are meant for people who have long history here, man. When we talk about black culture, it's not the skin tone. It's about our way of life, a culture we had to build here in this country and make our own, which is shared by many others here in this country as well, right? And so it's not saying that. I'll put it this way. Black culture would be what Joe Louis is, right? I say Joe Louis, right? He's born and bred here. Everybody know Joe Louis. Oh, that's Detroit, right? That's a killer Detroit boxer, right? That's what we're talking about. It's not something that I can point to and say, oh yeah, that came from Africa and we just integrated here. No, it's stuff that we made and created here, right? Like the good 4th of July celebrations, family reunions is an American cultural thing, right? When we come together every so often as a family and we share and eat food and bring each other up about what's going on in the family as a whole. That's American culture. So a lot of those things have gone away because we seek to make the minority culture, right, be the domineering one, and you're trying to make everybody's culture be equal, and
maybe that's something we ought to do. Maybe we ought to try, instead of like we obviously we should all speak out. Not all of us have a voice like Alpha does and a platform like Alpha, and Alpha doesn't. He's going after it, right? And sometimes you just got to sit back and realize that somebody else is a better fighter than you in this area, and you got to let them do it and support them however you can. But there's other ways. Think about what you just said. It just kind of like an epiphany. I was thinking, like, maybe as Americans, we ought to focus more on American culture, like family reunions, like these type of things. Like we have a list of these things where these are literally talking points that we start to bring up as Americans. This is part of America. You know what I'm saying? Because you do find it in small towns. You know what I'm saying? Like it is there. It's just that I think with the economy, it causes people to have to drive into the big cities. And I think that, it's just easier if we just move closer. And then so you kind of lose that small town, mentality. But there is that flip side, though, also. Look, I have seen people, illegals, coming across the border. And the moment they get over here, they literally drop to their knees and they start crying. They're bawling. They have touched the great American soil. They are in where they had to be. Now, there's a lot of things that a lot of people do that I don't agree with. I don't agree with people coming over here illegally. But when I see something like that, man, it is very hard not to be moved by watching someone act truly American by literally being a criminal, coming over here and trying to construct something over here. Now, I get it. I understand the fundamental values of it. But when I see someone break down.
That's called an invader, Mike. That's an
No
invader.
doubt it's an invader, kind of like we were when we moved over here, but that's okay. My point though is that they worship the ground that I'm not saying all of them, I'm saying, but there are some that worship the ground they just fell on. And what I'm saying is we don't do that at all anymore. The kids don't do that at all. Like very few people, I mean, a lot of us do because we know each other. I know Alpha does. You know what I'm saying? I've listened to Alpha. I've watched his shows. I've heard him talk. He's consistent across the board. And I know that he does. And I just wish more of us, and I hate kissing Alphas. I don't mind kissing his ass a little bit. I just wish that more of us were like that.
I wouldn't either.
More of us were like Andrew. More of us were like you, Rob. That we had that. But it's frustrating because I'm watching every day.
Well, Mike, where does it start? It's all about culture, right? Is what you're saying. You're in the institution that has destroyed that. You go to school and it's don't wear the flag. Oh, we're going to argue about, we're going to let the kids decide if they want to say the Pledge of Allegiance, which means clearly they haven't been given a good understanding of what has been put in to make this place. The reason why I kiss the ground of this place is because 1, my family fought for it, spilled blood for it. And 2, because George Washington gave it over to God. These people don't have that, nor do they have God. And then we let them come in here and don't assimilate. And that's the biggest problem, is we don't enforce our cultural norms because we don't even enforce our laws.
No, Vinny, that's a great point. And then I'm going to just say this real quick. I'm going to get to a couple hands. And I see that Fool Me has been up and down a couple times. I want to make sure I get to her. I just want to say this. Look, if I went to a Muslim country, I would respect the Muslim culture there as best that I could as a human being in my heart, right? I would adhere to it as best I could as a Christian, right? And give to Caesar what's Caesar's and give to God what's God's. I would literally give it my best shot. But whether you agree with it or not, it's still a country that was built foundationally on Christian principles. It was a country built on an idea that our rights are given to us from God, right? Now people say, I don't believe in God. I don't care about that. That's irrelevant. Because the culture comes from that foundation. And I think that if you just looked at the 10 Commandments as a general guideline, I think it's not a bad start. Just in general, 10 Commandments, okay. It's solid. I don't even agree with Louisiana saying you got to put them in a classroom. I don't think you have to go that far. I just think that you can at least say the pledge. But I don't know, that's me. Fool me, can't get fooled. Again, sounds like the opening to the
George Bush.
That's right.
Fool me can't be fooled again.
That's right.
Yeah,
how you doing?
We had him.
Welcome to the stage. Good to have you.
Hello. Thank you so much for bringing me up. A lot of interesting points here, and I think a question that we're kind of at a turning point with in our democracy. I know people, that phrase, our democracy, has become contentious. In our federal constitutional representative democracy, I think that, I really like public opinion polls. And there's one called Echelon Insights that I followed for a long time because it was one of the only public opinion polls that includes RFK Jr. And I think they might have stopped including him at some point. But I just wanted to see, I was a Bobby supporter for a long time. And I would read what people's top issues are. And for most of last year, they would say cost of living and political corruption. By a far margin, it would be cost of living and political corruption. At some point around the end of 2023, beginning of 2024, they started saying number 1, cost of living, and immigration jumped up. Immigration became number 2. People became highly concerned about immigration. And I do think it's a problem. I think it's, we talk a lot about loneliness and pro-social attitudes or antisocial kind of proclivities that have spread among younger people. And it's like, yeah, we need to all be able to communicate with each other in the same language. Like, I don't like going to a restaurant or getting into an Uber or whatever, and you can't talk to the person. So it's very, I like the topic. What came to mind for me when I first saw the topic of the space is there's a user on here called Blight, or the Blightaga. You guys might know him. He's really smart. He held a space like a while back about this paper by someone called Jonathan Glubb. and it talks about kind of the life cycle of empires. And it says that many empires throughout history, as they became very prosperous, started to have people from all over the world basically flock to the urban centers of this empire, and that it becomes destructive because, ironically, the more welcoming and tolerant you are towards other cultures, the more ability you have to grow your empire and become more powerful. But you are diminishing returns where the central cities of your empire they're no longer loyal, they're no longer culturally uniform. They just, you're not your own country anymore. And so, yeah, it's sort of like a Popper's paradox of tolerance thing. Like, we love that the West is a tolerant culture. We love that we are not rigid and intolerant like Islam or like other cultures that, are not welcoming to outsiders. At least I do. I prefer the tolerance and of the West and the egalitarian attitudes about gender to like a fundamentalist Muslim country. But then the paradox of that is that we've brought people here who are from cultures that are not tolerant of us as part of our welcome.
But Foley, let me ask you a quick question. Don't you find it a little bit ironic that they leave these places because of these things and then come over here and implement those same exact things on us, when I believe that this is the one country that would probably accept you more than anywhere else? I think that's why they're coming here.
Yeah, I mean, they want to come here because of our open-mindedness, and then they are not. And I'm African American. Like, African Americans were mentioned earlier in the space, and so I have no horse in the immigration race. Like, I'm not. Yeah, I feel like the two groups in America, or the three groups in America that are not connected to immigration, are like, I mean, white people are somewhat, but it's sort of more like colonization, and then Black people and Native Americans. Like, we don't have, like, those are kind of the three groups that probably are least likely to care about immigration. And so I'm like, yeah, the border, close it on up. I don't really care. But yeah, it is strange that people come here from other countries. Like Ilhan Omar. I think Ilhan Omar, she gets a lot of flack. I like some of her critiques of like her anti-war arguments, I think are sometimes good. Like, she's not as awful, I think, as some right-wingers say she is. But yeah, it's like, you come here, you say America is trash, we're letting you wear a hijab on the floor of Congress. And the place that you're coming from would not probably be tolerant in the inverse way. So it is strangely ironic. Yeah. Yeah,
that's great. Those are great points. I totally agree. I try to find something with her that, I like her brother. I like, he's a hell of a husband. Those are great points.
I feel sorry. I'm from Minneapolis, so I feel a little sorry for her or something. Like, she's kind of.
Minnesota.
Is there any cats getting eaten out there in Minneapolis? Or
any what?
Is there any cats getting eaten?
Oh, I don't live there anymore, but I do think that it appears that lefties. I'm like, are lefties going to meme their way into the White House? Because first it was coconut tree, now it's they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, and it's like. It seems like truth is not winning, the meme is winning. And it's a strange, like, people don't care what the facts are. They just care about what they can sing and dance to. I don't know what that's about.
Well,
yeah, it's about the vibe.
Actually, the facts are that the ducks and the stuff were getting eaten like over a year ago.
Carson was next. If that's cool with you, Mike.
Yeah, let's keep it to the.
I can't hear Andrew. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Carson, and then oh God, I want to hear from my boy Norwood, and then Athenian is there. Well, so let's do it. Carson, jump in there, brother. How you doing?
Hello. I think this is a really interesting conversation, and I want to just jump off by saying that I think immigration kind of comes as a reaction to what our stances on multiculturalism are. And so it's much more important to start with a conversation on multiculturalism and then move to immigration. But I think, like, essential to us as Americans is our tolerance of all sorts of different cultures. And not necessarily acceptance, but tolerance, right? That under the law, you can practice whatever the fuck you want and the government can't stop you. That's important and vital to America and Western democracy, or Western constitutional republics, I'll say. And so that is where multiculturalism starts and ends with for me. It is vital that we allow people to practice whatever they want as long as they are not abridging someone else's personal or property rights. So theoretically, that means that a business owner on private property can discriminate against all sorts of different cultures. I mean, if they want to make it so you won't do something, they have the right to deny service, which is, I think, something that like often gets overlooked. Like the Supreme Court recently ruled that business owners can deny services, it was literally just expressive services to LGBT people, and it's like, of course they can. It's their right to. And so that's where multiculturalism is important. We all have our own distinct culture. We all are free to practice it here. And I think that's really all that matters when it comes to the law, when it comes to policy and the government. The government doesn't abridge your right to practice your own culture, your own religion, and so on and so forth. But I guess there's more important conversations about society and how we treat that as a culture. But from where I look at it, the government needs to be involved in as little of those decisions as possible. So it quite literally, anything outside of that doesn't matter.
No, I think that's a great point. I think that the less that the government's involved, I know Alpha agrees with this as well. I think a lot of people agree with this, is the less the government is involved, the better. It's just a freaking disaster. I mean, we're watching it unravel literally right before our eyes. It's kind of amazing to be alive right now and watch this in real time. Des, you and I, we talk about this like Dez's research.
It's devolving.
It's
devolving, isn't it?
Yeah. But Des watches this in real time. She uncovers some of the best research in the world on like COVID and the stuff that they push on us. And I keep thinking that she can't, I'm not going to hear anything about, oh my God, I can't believe this. And yet these things just keep popping up, right, Des? I mean, you just keep coming across stuff that's mind blowing.
Every day, like my father would tell me, no matter where you go, there you will be. It's just like, no matter what, if you look into something, you're going to find something, and it's never ending. It really is a sea of everything. But you're right. I'm surprised every day because I could go on about COVID probably for 6-7 hours straight and still not get down to the bottom of it. Not even close, not even halfway. It's a disaster. But I think we're seeing an overload of what America considers the American dream, which is excess, everything in excess. And it's literally permeating everything.
Hey, May, I want to ask May a quick question before we go to Norwood. May, you're what, 25? Is that right? 25-ish?
Yes, I'm 23.
23.
You
okay, gotcha.
young, beautiful bitch.
Don't stop calling me that.
My 33 speaking out. Get back in there, 33.
Yeah, really.
Now we know why
The outfit's
people-
late.
Okay.
It's
So,
way
May-
past her bedtime, so I don't know. She's being cranky.
I do, and that's what I'm saying. I want to ask this question real quick before she's got to go to bed. Just tell your mom to hold on 1 second. We'll be done with it. Just 1 second. She's coming. Hold on. So what do you think? Like, you're seeing this has been your whole life, right? Like, since you've been probably paying attention to politics in the real world, this is literally your entire life. Do you notice the degrading of our country? Like, are you seeing this at the same rate we are? Like, or is it just us old people thinking like, back in my day, we used to have to walk uphill both. That's right. Back in the 1900s, we used to have to walk uphill both ways to school.
We used to say this little pledge to the flag.
I do see it. I do.
Do you?
But I often wonder if the problem isn't new. Like, all the problems are just the same problems on repeat, That's kind of what I've been noticing. It's a theme that I've seen. So, yeah, I think the only difference now is the technology and social media, genuinely. Which is, I know that seems like, counterintuitive to all the other stuff that I've said, but it really does. There's a lot of problems we have, and they're all very relevant, but they're just repetitive. Like,
they look different a little bit, but they're pretty much the same common theme over the decades. So what do you think of that, Mike?
Mike, can I get a co-host so I can kick her out and like bring me in?
Oh my God. Hold on. I gotta rotate real quick. This is driving me nuts.
We'll come back to you. Norwood,
Hey,
I know
buddy.
you remember the difference between the 2 days. September 11th was an incredible day. September 11th was a horrible day. September 12th was an incredible day. Right?
Unless
People
you were
forget
Arab
about
American.
September 12th, September 13th.
Unless
We
you were
got our
Arab
flags on our
American.
freaking car as fast as we could. We got our
Yeah.
freaking voice out. Like we were pissed. We were the United States of a badass America. Like it doesn't, like, granted, whether it was right or wrong, but we were united, man. That was an incredible time.
Yes, unless you were Arab American, and then it was really freaking
I
scary.
can't hear Norwood. Is he speaking?
Yes,
Hold on, I'll come right
he is.
back.
What is going on? I literally hate this so much. I'm sorry,
May,
guys.
I think May's an op.
Okay, somebody gave me a tip in the comments and said that iPhone users, there's an update today. So if you haven't updated, well, then that's the problem, and I haven't either. So
That might be me. Can you
Wait,
hear me
I
now?
hear Norwood now.
Okay, yeah, I was going to
Maybe
say
it
yeah,
is May. When May goes down the speaker, I can hear everybody again.
It's
What
May.
the?
It's May, yeah, because she was choppy the whole time.
Was I really?
Imagine that
Yes.
the youngest one in the space. The
See,
youngest
you
one in the
know,
space can't manage the technology.
Norwood, you bring kids into the room, and what happens? They just, it's ice cream and candy and freaking
Who
bad
brought the
connections.
kids in?
Good Lord.
To answer your opening statement, yes, September 11th was horrific, and September 12th was great for all Americans except the Arab ones because they were scared to death.
That's
They
true.
were
That's good.
targeted.
That is a great point. Yeah. That's right.
And that's, to me, that's.
Sorry,
I'm sorry.
real quick. I was born
I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
I was born in 2001 in March, so that was literally like, the beginning of my life. I don't remember it, but it definitely, I haven't.
Well, you're a bad American if you've forgotten it and you were alive then. So that's on you.
That's right.
Right. I do remember. I do. Yes.
So, as probably the only liberal in here and Mike's token liberal friend, I am not tolerant at all. To me, tolerance is the problem. Okay? America is very simple. Am I allowed to cuss in here?
Not the bad ones.
Okay. Don't screw with me and I'll return the favor.
That is so appropriate. That was
America.
great.
That's America. So yeah, you can do whatever you want as long as you don't infringe upon me and mine, kids and animals.
See, I agree with that, bro. Like
Yeah.
you can't make things make more sense than that.
And I think the issue is we don't start from the same place. I do not tolerate you, Mike. You're my friend. If you do something that I don't tolerate, you'll find out. Like, that's just the way it works. Yes, you are able, to the previous speaker's point, to practice whatever religion you want, unless you're on some hilltop in Utah marrying off 12-year-old girls. I will not tolerate that. Okay? In the beginning of our country, we had a monolithic culture. White males owned everything. And they wrote something down very specific, that all of us are equal. And the sooner we realize that, agree to it with each other, and then don't infringe upon one another, that's as simple as it is. Doesn't matter what you eat, doesn't matter who you sleep with, as long as they're north of 18 and consenting. Doesn't matter if there's 5 of them in the bed. I don't care. This is America, right? Are you effing with me and mine? No. Okay, great. Are you draining the system? Okay, you're effing with us. You're taking away from the collective and not putting it back in. Now, to the part about being able to turn away a customer based on their sexual orientation, the Supreme Court got that wrong, in my opinion. And the reason why I say that is the business entity itself has a social security number. It is its own American. And if you are discriminating, that business is not being American. Now, that doesn't mean you got to make a cake shaped like a penis. Right? But it does mean.
But it kind of does mean that, though, doesn't it?
No, well, there's a difference between profanity and, say, like a rating on a movie to warn kids, right? Like, just because you're a photographer doesn't mean that you have to take porn pictures of somebody because that's what they want. We do have decency laws. Just like, yeah, you can wear whatever you want. But if you walk into a gas station, you have to put a shirt on. Well, I live in Central Florida. We kind of are lax on that one. You don't have to wear shoes either. But for the most part, like, you can't eat in a restaurant if you're naked. But there's a reason for it. It's not just because we don't like you, or because you're gay, or because you're straight, right? Or because you like dressing up like a furry parrot. It's because it's unsanitary for you to have your naked ass in my restaurant sitting on a chair, right? Like, it's so simple, and we overthink it constantly. It's that, like, take any rule whatsoever and apply that to it, and everything works out. And the people that don't agree with that, those are the non-Americans. If you come from a place of tolerance where you get to beat women in the street and people keep walking, get the F out of here, right? Like, tolerance is the problem. That's the problem with education right now, right? The problem with our public schools is that nobody with kids was watching it. You guys were busy. I don't have kids, thank God. I paid attention in 7th grade.
You might have some out there. You don't know that.
Yeah, I might. But you guys took your eye off the ball, right? You guys took your eye off the ball and turned the public education system into babysitting. And those aren't their kids, right? Not being involved. You woke up one day and all of a sudden there's a bunch of weird books in the library. Well, how'd they get in there in the first place? And everybody's freaking out to take them out. We all look crazy, right? Because we're not starting in the same place, right? Don't infringe upon me. Teach my kid math. I got the rest of it. It's just that simple. And then,
no, I agree. I think it is simple, and I think that you can take the simple foundational things like you're saying. Like, if somebody wants, if a dude wants to mow his yard in a tutu, right, with a little thing in his hair, I don't care. But if he forces me to have to do it, unless it's on a weekend, I'm not going to do it, right? Maybe after a drink or something. That's irrelevant, but I'm not going to do it. But if he does it to the point where it's destroying the neighborhood value, now we have a different argument. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's a different point. So I believe that there are points of view that maybe sometimes we don't consider as infringement. And I think that those can be those can be fixed in a court, or gone through I don't think you have to go there and, you don't have to fight with people, but I think those things can be solved. But
well, I mean,
but being willing to solve it, though, is what I'm saying. Being willing to solve these problems that's the common denominator.
But the government for, of, and by us gets to solve it on our behalf as long as we don't let go of control of the government, which is why it's coming apart. So take your example of cutting grass in a tutu. You do not have to take care of your house if you don't want to, Mike, until you get to a point where it can be condemned. Because now you're infringing. That structure is unsafe. It's got mold. There can be airborne spores. There can be an infestation of dangerous spiders and snakes or whatever. Like, it is universal. Apply it. You can do whatever you want, but you can get to a state in any subject where you are now infringing upon me, and that's where the government steps in. We do it all the time. The reason why you have to wear a seatbelt is not because we just like it. It's because if all of us are driving 5,000-pound objects at 80 miles an hour down the highway, we start crashing into each other, we overload our collective healthcare system, right? So somebody with COPD that needs a bed, there's no beds, and she suffocates in the parking lot because your dumbass wouldn't put on a seatbelt for all of us. It's that simple.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. See, that's the difference. Real quick, though, guys, down the bottom right-hand corner, just retweet the space, quote tweet it, retweet it, whatever you want to do. Just do it real quick. Oh my God, you're going to be so hot after you do this. I'm telling you, so hot. Just real quick, but
so hot.
So hot. It's so hot, May. So hot. May's listed as a speaker, but she's actually co-host. It's just that she's using an iPhone 5, and so it's causing some issues right now. But that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. She's it's the only one that plays Roblox, so it's okay. I do want to say this real fast. Check out every other site. And this is no slight against Diligent or Jen or anybody else like that, but they bring in their token liberal, and it's Jared and Brian. I bring in my token liberal, and it's freaking Norwood, baby. Get some of that. That's how you bring in a freaking smart liberal. That's how you do it. You bring in the best, and that's what you get in this space.
I have laid waste to those other two that you just mentioned.
I know you have.
Correct.
I know you have, my brother. Always good talking to my guy, Norwood. I love it. I love it. I love it. May, let me ask you real fast. Do you know the stranger? Not just any stranger. He is the book? No, not the book. The man.
The masturbation technique?
No, not the technique. The man. Not to say the man doesn't use the technique. I'm speaking about just the man. not the book.
First, you sit on your head.
No, I don't.
He is not just a stranger. He is the Athenian stranger. Athenian stranger, welcome to the stage, brother. One of the smartest people.
Wait, Mike, real quick.
Yes.
Real quick. Can I say one thing?
Absolutely not. I'm just playing. Go ahead.
Am I lagging? Am I cutting out a little bit?
Yes.
A little bit.
Damn it. Okay.
Not right now.
Never mind. Go to Athenian.
You sound pretty good. You sound all right. I see your thumbs up looks clear.
Okay. Well, here, I'll try and make it short. We are all equal, but I think in a lot of ways we aren't. So I think determining what makes us all equal, because there's a bunch of stuff that is unequal in society.
Name a way in which we are unequal.
Well, I mean, whenever we talk about like business, there's the boss, there's the people that are underneath the boss, there's a hierarchy. That doesn't necessarily mean that.
But that's not by definition them as a person. That could be tenure, that could be experience, that could be education. So where we should all be equal is access to opportunity. Then whatever you do with it can create an inequality based on your own choice or your athletic ability in one sport over another. But the baseline of equality does not mean that heavier object, you can do, long division in your head, right? That's a predisposed part of your physiology that you can't control. But what we can control is to give you access to maximize what your God-given abilities are without infringing upon you, because by definition, I'm labeling you as an unequal and then denying you access to that opportunity.
Well, technically, it's also that you have intrinsic value as a human. So no matter what, no matter who you are, no matter what you do, I do not get to take away your rights. I don't get to enslave you. I don't get to hurt you just because maybe I'm richer or stronger or shit, like whatever. Like I can't go over your rights. And that's what it means to be equal. And when you look at how they mean equal in the Constitution, it means in the eyes of God, which is how God looks at people. He has no respects for persons.
That's why we write laws a specific way in this country. Congress shall not enact a law infringing upon the right to free speech, the right to free assembly, the freedom of religion, and bring redress upon the government. It doesn't say you get your right to free speech. You have it already. You have the right to keep and bear arms. We cannot infringe upon you on your right to vote based on gender, right? Like everything that we do is keeping us off each other and the government off of us. And anyone that breaks that rule, that's when we send in the government. Unless you're in my house, I'm doing it myself.
There we go. Let me jump in there to Athenian. Yeah, look, Norwood. See, that's my liberal right there. That's my guy. It is Athenian. What do you think about that? That makes pretty common sense, right? Don't you think?
Well,
some of it anyway.
Usually when you have people talking about equality of opportunity, it's usually a bunch of nonsense because they'll say it's simple. But the way to answer the question that was posed to me is even simpler. It may be true that all men are created equal. Maybe. But what I know for certain, and certainly what the founders knew for certain, was that not all people pursue their excellence with the same kind of vigor. That's the problem. That, however, is very easily solved at very early levels in one's education. And so all this nonsense that we hear today about equal opportunity, that's the source of all this. They apply it to adults, for God's sake. But anyway, look, that's easy enough to swat down. What I simply wanted to add was, I've done entire spaces about this because this is such an important topic. This word that we call culture, most people don't even really know what it is. It's one of the very few words that is absolutely foundational to us as a people. But it's very new under the sun. In fact, it wasn't even around during the founding. And that's what catches most people off guard because we use it so casually. It's a lot like the word nature.
I'll bring you back. Yeah, no, I get
I'll
you.
drop it down, Vinny.
There we go.
Oh, okay. oh man, I hate that we lost Vinny. He had that killer reference to the Strangler on Gone in 60 Seconds, man. That was brilliant.
Oh, he'll be back if he's not. I think he is already. So,
but no. Here's the thing. The word culture, and it's not to be confused with the word cult in Latin. It comes from cultura. Cult is from cultus. That's a different thing. That's when you're talking specifically about a religion. Cultura was always understood agriculturally as tilling the land. The first person that we ever know to have used it with regard to humans, other people, is Cicero. And he uses it to describe philosophy. He says that philosophy is the culturing of the soul. So there was always, and you have to bear with me here, in English, it's the word of, usually. It's the genitive case. It means possession. So whenever the word culture was applied to humans, it always contained the genitive, the of, and they were always talking about the soul. And so it was never understood as something that could be writ large because it required specific individual work with a specific individual person, right? I mean, it wasn't something you could just apply to an entire people because, I mean, it's just natural inequality is in many ways what defines man, specifically man in political community. So the word culture starts getting applied to entire civilizations, not until we're talking the late 18th century. This is new under the sun because the genitive disappears now. And this is what the Enlightenment becomes intoxicated with, is the belief that if you can just spread education properly to everyone, then you can, in fact, culture everyone. However, when it first appears, now the French are going to use the word civilization. The Germans are going to use the word Kultur, German for culture, and they're going to be at each other's throats about which word is going to be applicable. Right? Is it going to be civilization or is it going to be culture? In both cases, it was always understood to be singular. It was never plural. There was only one civilization. For the French, it was the French. There was only one culture. For the German, it was for the Germans. Then what happens in the Enlightenment is that they become so intoxicated with science that they want to prove that all of these things that we value today, like egalitarianism, human rights, these kinds of things, they wanted to prove that these applied timelessly. And so that's when history becomes scientific. And what happens is it undergirds itself. They find out that they can't find these kinds of things that endure through history. That's when we get the rise of, on the one hand, this word worldview. That's where that comes from. It's a very technical word in philosophy. And what it means is that you don't have the kind of stability and truth in timeless things that endure that people believed that the Enlightenment was all about. So you get the rise of the word worldview at the same time that you get the pluralization of civilization and culture. And so that's what happens. So, but anyway, everyone's probably got their eyes glossed over saying, my God, the nerd's talking. Someone shut him up. But
I like it. Keep going. I like it. Don't listen to them. Keep going.
But the question, though, is this. Well, okay, if the word culture is new under the sun, then what was there before this? That's where things become easy if you have a good education system, something that the founders, in fact, did have. America was by no means multicultural because, see, once you're in the realm of culture, you're already in the realm of relativism. You put the word multi in front of it, and it's like relativism, like exponential. That's how bad it is. They would never have agreed to that. And the reason is because the thing that existed, the concept that existed prior to this word culture that we use for everything, we talk about business culture, the culture of fashion, blah, blah, blah. Applied to a people, what we had was the word citizen. Aristotle devotes an entire book of his text, the Politics, to figuring out what that word means. That's what the founders themselves were working from, is what does it mean to be a citizen? And Aristotle is very specific about it. And the founders were following in that tradition very, very closely, very closely. I mean, this is so documented. It's almost like, where do you want me to begin with the avalanche? But that's the thing. And we've lost sight of that. We no longer value this thing called citizenship. We have, in fact, people have dual citizenship, that kind of stuff. Well, where do your allegiances ultimately reside, right? That's the problem. And we don't have that anymore. I mean, and look, I mean, I could sort of go on about this, but the issue though is that the way that people should understand the word multiculturalism is that it is simply a euphemism for the word relativism. And relativism is itself simply a euphemism for some form of nihilism. It's that simple. I mean, the word culture was born from the Enlightenment, the thing that we value so much, undercutting its own claims. I mean, that's what's so amazing about all of this. But what was not undercut,
quick follow up before you stop.
What was not, now look, what was not undercut ever though was this understanding of citizenship. We did that very recently. And just one last thing, when you hear things like African American or Arab American, these kinds of stuff, most people don't realize how absolutely new those words are. It wasn't until I think it was 1983 with Jesse Jackson running for president that the word African American even came into existence. Everyone used the word Negro before that. You're not even allowed to say that now. I mean, that's considered the N-word, for God's sake. But these other words like Arab American and all that stuff, just ask yourself, look what's being done. They're privileging, right, an adjective in front of the fact that they are already a citizen. So they're privileging, for instance, their African heritage. They're privileging their Arabic heritage. Any of those things, they're privileging prior to the fact that they are in this country and they are citizens in this country. That's the dangerous, dangerous, slippery slope. And we've fallen down it. But anyway, I'll just leave it at that. But thanks for letting me sort of go on.
You're 100% right, though, man. What's it called? We're all Americans. Adding these little things to it is you know, kind of blasphemy. Doesn't matter. I don't care what you look like. I care if you're in this together with me and care about this country. And yeah, people have lost sight of that. We've taught people it's good to be selfish instead of, Destiny's going to be very happy about this, but instead of what can my country do for me, what can I do for my country?
Was that what you were trying to say, Athenian, or was because I heard that we've kind of gotten away from this how we define meaning and belonging and like really what that is and how profound.
Could I come in real quick?
I
mean, could I come, like Maura Healey, the governor?
Well, 1 second.
The governor.
Andrew. Andrew.
I think that Norwood had a question for you, Athenian.
Yeah, thank you. I loved it because when people say I'm American, in my head, I correct it and I go, no, you're a U.S. citizen. There is a difference. There's a difference between an American and a U.S. citizen, and it's very important to me to make that distinction. So when I hear you say that culture is the cultivating of oneself, to me, like we are individual countries of one coming together collectively to agree upon something, that the government doesn't give us our rights. You know, X, Y, like, you know, on down the line of everything that we've, you know, that we hold to be true. And to me, that is so important. So to say that like culture is cultivating of the soul and it's an individualistic idea that is then mapped across the concept of citizen, that's exactly what yes, 100% love it.
Yeah, see, that's the confusing thing, Athenian, about when you speak, is that confuses some. Like I don't know. Like I know I'm smarter after having this, and yet I'm frustrated because why didn't I know that? And then I say, well, how did I know that? And then I realize I'm in this conversation with myself, and it's not working out really well. And then I start arguing with myself, and then I just have to mute. Athenian, jump in there. I know you wanted to respond. But I know what you're saying. It was brilliant. It just. It's amazing how you've acquired this kind of knowledge, bro.
It really is.
Well, no, just keep in mind, I mean, I've spent my life studying these kinds of things. So, I mean, that's the thing. But the point, though, is that we all have found ourselves in this situation precisely because we've allowed, as a people, our education system to become so horrible. If you lose the institutions of education, you have lost your country. You can continue to call it whatever you want, but it's not that. What your country, what your people always is what's being taught to the youth in the classrooms, because that's why we say they are the future. But one last thing I would say, I think it might have been Vinny that was asking, or May, you had asked something about it. I didn't go into details about this. founders and the framers do a good enough job of this in the Federalist Papers. But the understanding of citizenship, and they're getting this from Aristotle, by the way, the understanding of citizenship was always something that one would strive for, right? It was not something that was simply bestowed upon you and then you carried it around like a certificate or a degree. That was not it. Citizenship was something to be cherished. And there was always the possibility that you could lose it if you violate the terms of the agreement, which is to say, if you violate what you've pledged to by taking on that act of becoming a citizen. And again, these are things that we've just completely lost. Most Americans could not pass the very basic citizenship exam that's given to immigrants. I don't even know if they give that to them anymore, but I mean, they used to. But in any case, that's the point, though, is that citizenship is something to be strived for throughout one's life. And that's where you get this concept of the common good. The tension always arises when you have what modernity gave us, which is to say a classical liberalism, this what we call the sphere of privacy of conscience and stuff like that. There's a tension there because it's like, well, wait a minute, how far does that freedom of privacy of conscience extend? What are those boundaries and stuff? But again, that's not necessarily something to be emphasized at the cost of citizenship itself. I mean, that's the whole point. That's the more important thing, just to keep in mind. And I would encourage people to at least look into this. I mean, there's innumerable resources to look at for even understanding the concept of citizenship according to at least the founders and the framers of our own country. And that's the very least I think that we could all do, what we owe them, as we, as many people apparently seem to take a kind of sick glee in trashing the country that has given them the very life that they have. So.
That's brilliant.
Any resource links you could put in the bill, I will do.
Yeah, and by the way, let me say this real quick. You guys go give Athenian a follow, right? And if you go to his page, there, his profile, you're going to see a website. You're going to see that he hosts spaces. You're going to see that he has lots of information, lots of things that you're going to be able to read about and follow him with, and turn on the notification bell so whenever he has something, pops right up. But he's an absolute fantastic follow. And I think it took me, like when I first heard him, it took me a few weeks, I think, to follow him because I might have been jealous or something. I don't know. It was probably jealousy. But then I overcame it. I used philosophy that I heard him speak about, and it helped me overcome my jealousy. So now I'm like a normal person, and I'm a normal Athenian follower. So it's brilliant.
I was
Quit lying. You're so not normal.
I was personally intimidated by Mike's vocal physiology. I was like, this guy talking is going to mog me. But no, listen, there's what I'll put up in the nest is it's a small book. It only contains 4 essays. It's 4 chapters, and it's the question of the founders or the framers on these issues of citizenship and immigration. And one of them in particular is devoted exclusively to the claim of birthright citizenship. But then the first one is devoted to the question of postmodern philosophy and citizenship. The reason that one's important is because this thing we call multiculturalism, and in fact, culture as a concept, that is a part of late modern philosophy, which is to say it has the glimmer of postmodern philosophy. So that's going to be the element of relativism, which is to say some degree of nihilism that is afoot in all of these discussions. But these are by top-notch professors, and I really recommend it. But I'll add it.
Sounds great. I'm absolutely looking forward to reading that. That's great stuff, brother. Appreciate that. Let me go to Andrew real fast, and then I want to welcome MV to the stage, one of the best space hosts out there. But for right now, Andrew got his hands up. Jump in there, Andrew.
I was just gonna say that, like, most of that definitions and shit didn't mean anything, to me, as far as like red-blooded American out doing business in the real world. Like, that was a bunch of mumbo jumbo just to make me feel good, or like.
Andrew, it was all in Latin. It was in Latin. That's why it didn't make sense.
It was in Latin.
Yeah, the whole thing was Latin. Yeah.
To me, my president's getting shot at. I mean, the war on my kids in the school, indoctrination with love circles in school all of a sudden. What the hell's going on with that? They have all sorts of indoctrination. And I will give some props to MikeMac, with his abortion stance and how he's going against it, how he's sticking up for the baby. I love that. And Mike, that's why I do love you. Democracy, the Democrats, they think they like democracy, right? But yet, no elections in Ukraine yet. There's no democracy in Ukraine. It's been years. They cut the elections off. J6 was a big, the war on democracy. But there's no democracy even in their own platform, even in the own national convention, right? The Democratic National Convention. They got nothing. Kamala never even got one single vote. Who voted for Kamala? Nobody has. Nobody's voted for any of that. So,
well, there's no doubt there's more things than multicultural. Look, you hit on some great things that are destroying our society, start destroying our morality. But the main thing I want to stay focused on, though, Andrew, is I want to focus on the multiculturalism, because it's one of the things we can't talk about, because if we talk about it in a condescending way at all, as if it could be a root of a problem that might branch off in other problems, we're automatically shut down from talking about that as if we don't care, we don't love other people. That it's like, and it's a weird dichotomy, right? Because you feel one way and then you also feel another, and you're watching these two perspectives collide with each other. And yet one of them makes total sense, and the other, and to some people, and the other makes sense. So I'm just trying to figure out like what people bring to the table. You know what I'm saying? That what is it that they're bringing that's helping or hurting us? You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm trying to
bringing what? MikeMac, who's bringing what? Like,
well, I'll tell you real quick. In the school, every single day, what I see is I see foreigners that from India and like African kids, that like literally African kids moving over here. And I see some of the greatest students of all of them, right? They come from a different culture and they come over here, and it is we who are the wreckers, right? They realize, wow, I don't have to do the home. If not for their home life, there's no other influence that's going to make them do the things they need to do. And the reason why I don't bring up Asians, we don't include Asians. We don't include Asians in the data anymore. That's a fact. Like I've literally brought that up before in a meeting. Why are the names not? Well, because we kind of have that figured out. But people don't think about the little Asian girl sits in the back that gets 100 on every single thing that she does, and she gets no attention because she's already up here. Because all we do is we care about bringing the people that are low up to medium, so we can have a whole nation full of averages instead of taking the people that are above average and pushing them up to excellence. Right? That's our concern.
Let's freaking go.
That's it. I mean,
that's awesome.
MikeMac, can I jump in real quick? Because I'd like to say, like, why don't we see hotels full of Chinese illegal aliens coming in? Why aren't there, hotels packed?
Because Xi Jinping won't let them leave.
No, it's because they're well funded. They get absorbed in the system well before they even are refugee in that type of atmosphere. All right, so I mean, we know what's going on. The illegal aliens are coming in. It's destabilized in the United States. It's an invasion, and that's just the way it is. So, I mean, are we dancing around the facts, or are we going to look at the facts the way they are? The schools, the viruses coming in, the bacterial infections, the viral infections, the funguses coming in through the jungle. It's are we going to deny the facts here? And they're going
Andrew, we're not
the election with it.
No, we're not.
But Andrew, I think we're trying to figure out why we believe what we believe, right? Why do we believe multicultural?
Yeah,
not just because
exactly.
things are blowing up in front of our face, but the fact that George Washington had to be given land, right, to be able to become president, to be able to. Why? Because you had to have a stake in this country, and that's the thing that we're missing, is that people don't even believe you have to have a stake in this country to participate in it. And I think that's kind of like where we get to the nitty gritty to try and give it some color of what Athenia was saying, where the fact that like there used to be standards. Being a citizen used to have come with responsibilities, and if you didn't uphold yourself to those standards, then your citizenry would be revoked. Now we're looking for ways to get people in. And now we literally have Democrats, even though they don't admit it, they will in back rooms, that they also want, illegals to vote. And now you have marches for it. So I hope you're realizing that's the reason we're having this conversation, is so we know why we believe it, not that we're just going and pointing and going, look, it's not working. Because some people will just say, oh, that's intolerance, where it's like, no, the founding fathers saw this issue coming up a very long time ago, and now we're living through it because we're not listening to them.
And that's a great point, Vinny. We're not, because we can go into any space and listen to everybody bitch about all the politics going on. Last week, Des and I, we did a space where we're like, you know what, we don't want to talk about that. We want to chill. Like, we're going to talk about other stuff. And that's what we did, right? So we can go bitch about politics, because there's a lot to bitch about, right? There's a lot of corruption going on right in front of our face. We can do that in any space. It'll be open at any time. This one, I'm trying to get into I'm trying to understand the thought about the culture. Like, what is our culture? Like, how are we being degraded? Is what we consider to be moral, is that being affected by other people's morality? And it might be they come over here with a morality they see as totally good, hardcore. I don't care if you're homosexual, we're going to throw you off the top of a building. Like, you can't bring that type of culture over here. You just can't do it. And people say, well, I disagree with homosexuality. I think it's wrong. Okay, understandable. But we have a culture that allows you to disagree with someone's preference without throwing them off the top of a building, right? So it's like that kind of culture. You could see how that we cannot allow that culture to exist here. It cannot exist here, right? And so what I'm trying to figure out is, what are some of the smaller cultures, some of the smaller influences that we have that are affecting us that we may not even be paying attention to? So that's kind of where I want to go with that. But real quick, though, I want to go, before we get to Robbie and Marwan. Well, look, before we do that, let's see, the co-hosts got their hands up. Des, jump in there, bro.
Paging Mrs. Kennedy.
Oh, she left. She didn't like that. She did not.
Oh, she loved it. She begs for that freaking thing to be played. I didn't want to use it. She must be losing her connection. Let me, May, go ahead and jump in there. We'll wait for her to come back, and then we'll
okay.
And then we'll go to Des.
Well, so Marwin's another Gen Zer. So
did someone say paging Miss Kennedy? I'm here.
Wait, what? Say it again, Destiny.
Someone said paging Miss Kennedy, and I'm like, yes.
Oh my God. It never gets old, does it? Yeah, it does. It really does. It gets old really quick.
I just wanted to say, MikeMac, I think I'm with you. I feel the same way. Repeating the same subjects, bitching about stuff that is just constantly being talked about is a waste of time. I understand why people do it. Occasionally, I'll do it too. But when it comes down to it, I feel like we're missing some key problems, which it's really not. It's not even like I'm trying to find a solution. Like I'm the one that's going to answer it, or I'm going to meet the people that have the answers. It's that I want to figure out, I want to know the stuff like what Athenian just brought, so that I can understand what the real problem is. And then once I do understand what the real problem is, I can start focusing my individual energy on those types of subjects and start moving the ball forward, at least in the conversations that I do have. So I'm with you. And I've been looking into a lot of philosophy lately. So it's really eye-opening how the problems in society throughout the whole world have repeated. And you can literally look back at these great philosophers struggling with the same moral and societal and cultural dilemmas that we are facing right now. And that is actually insane to me. So that's what I meant earlier when I said I see the same problems repeating. But yeah, like, I feel you, Mike. We're going to figure it out together.
May, you bring up that's a great point. I mean, even in the Bible, Paul said, I know what I'm not supposed to do, and I do it anyway. You know, it's like, and it's correct. Like that we all go through it. So it is the foundation of who we are. And I know Vinny will check me. I mean, sometimes you question yourself. It was Paul that said that.
No, it was Paul that said that. And earlier when you were talking about bending your maybe comfortability to go and respect another nation within their borders, that's also Paul saying, I become everything to everyone. So as long as they're not asking you to, denounce your God, you do their literal rituals to show,
Right.
hey, I'm a friend. I'm trying to put out an olive branch. I'm not going to disrespect you. But the fact that we let them come here and disrespect us is, I think, one of the issues of our culture.
Yeah, I'm literally reading Galatians right now, and I just got through with Ephesians. So Ephesians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, 1st, 2nd Thessalonians, like they're all on the horizon. They're coming. So, but real quick though, let me jump into MV. So MV, let me just tell you something about her real fast. And so if you get into a space with MV, okay, and you see Maze anywhere around, there's a legitimate chance that space might go on for 9 hours. Now, correct. I'm not going to say there's right. I mean, she's done she did a 14-hour space, if I'm not mistaken. So when we talk about philosophy and wisdom, I'd like to pick her brain real quick and make sure everybody, you give her a follow. She is fantastic. How do you do that? I mean, that's the question. How do you do that? And she talks about the greatest topics too, Anunnaki, astrology, like all kind of like interesting things. Pyramids, whatever it is. It's like aliens. It's out there. It's great stuff. So tell us a little bit about that, MV.
Hi, Mike, Destiny, May, and Layla. I haven't seen you in a long time, and Vinny, I haven't seen him either in a long time. And Athena, it's nice to meet you. I don't know. I think and there's Alpha, but he's quiet. I don't think he's present right now. And then there's Eileen. All right. Anyway, I'm sorry. See how I am, Mike? It's like everyone matters to me, and I just love people, and I just want to give them a shout out. So I'm sorry. I take up time doing that.
Not at all.
Makes fun of me. But yeah, I just love people, and I think I have bad influences around me because they love people as much as I do. So we can just do marathons in spaces. And May, every time you want to close, people are like, "Don't go, don't go."
Yes. And then as soon as you start to close the space, then you get the best speakers that start coming up with the best topics, and you're like, "What the time?"
Every time. Never fails. So that's why, Mike, they get it.
Well, MV, so let me tell you, because you're a people person. So I just want to give you a quick scenario, kind of talking about the topic tonight. And I want you to give me your honest feedback. Okay. So I'm gonna give you a little scenario that's actually that happened to me. And I know Des has probably heard this before, but so here's the deal. In the school, I'm next to a teacher, right? He's a hardcore Republican. We have a lot of things in common, agree on a lot of things, right? And he was saying something about the illegal immigration. And he said, these illegal immigrants, they ought to be kicked out of our country. And I said, well, I mean, I see where you're coming from. Yeah, absolutely. I think they ought to, have to go back, right? But he said, no, they all ought to be kicked out just immediately. Not even asking questions. I go, well, here's the thing. In your classroom right now, I know for a fact there are 4 people that are illegal. There are kids that are illegally here right now in your class. So here's the question. Do you go up and report them and kick them out of the school and have them deported immediately with their parents? Or because you know these kids, right? Because you're close to them, because you've been through trials and tribulations with them. You've been there when they've cried about something going home. You've read their papers about instances of abuse or something like that they've had to go through. Like, you have formed a relationship with them. I've literally sat with some of them before. And one girl in particular that I still talk to, she lives down in Mexico now. Like, I cried with her when she had to leave. This was back in 2018, 2019. And so I'm a hypocrite. Like, I'll come out and say it. I'm a stone hypocrite, right? Because I can believe one way, but then I act another way. And I cannot not act that way. I cannot turn that family in. I can't do it. And yet I'm totally opposed to the fact that they came over here. So MV, I want to ask you, what do you think about that? Like, what would you do being a people person? How would you handle a situation like that?
You're such a big person for that, Mike. That was lovely, by the way.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. But it's a true story, and it does mess with you mentally. I can't lie to you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm with you, Mike. I feel the same way. It's like there's a strong dichotomy that happens in an individual that has compassion, but then at the same time follows rules and realizes that when certain rules are broken, although it helps a demographic of people, it could be to the detriment of the whole, you know? So it's a complicated question, isn't it? Where do we find ourselves? My kids, we lived abroad for a number of years. My children entered school in France, and they accept any kid for education. We had visas, of course, so we were there legally. But I just felt like, not speaking the language and things like that, my children were in a foreign land and everyone embraced them and let them in. We were American, of course, so Americans seem to get priority because they're favored in other countries, especially before 2020. So yeah, it's really complicated. I think it's very easily fixable, illegal immigration. I look at our politicians and I'm like, they either lack intelligence or they want to work against the momentum to heal our societies. It's very easy to fix illegal immigration. We spend billions of dollars a year taking care of people who come here illegally, right? So how do you fix that? All that you have to do is realize that we did cause destruction across the globe with economic hitmen. We sent our men out to different countries to destabilize their governments, to create coups, to install our own people. And as a result, a lot of these countries are destroyed. So how do we fix it? Well, we take the billions of dollars that we spend because they come here because their countries have been destroyed. And we create factories in their countries where they work and they are employed. Maybe we take 10% of the profits because we're using our tax money to build those factories. But I guarantee within 10 to 20 years, our profit will far outweigh the cost of illegal immigration that it is currently. And it'll also far outweigh what we contribute to building those factories. It's so easy. And they won't want to come here. Why? Because they can take care of themselves. They can feed their families. They're making money. They have pride. They have dignity. And it works all around. Isn't that easy though, Mike?
It is easy. And let me.
It sounds.
Hold on a second, Andrew. Hold on one second. It is easy, but you could even do a lighter version of that and say, not only do we go there and destabilize countries, but what we do is we always say this, and this is Trump, this is Kamala, Biden, whoever, they all say this right here. We want the best and the brightest from the other countries to come over here to the United States, right? And to contribute to our society and to our country. But think about this. You're literally saying out loud, we want to take the best, we want to strip you of the best that you've got, make them into Americans. God bless America, right? That's what we want to do, right? But that takes away the best from their country.
You ain't us. Don't hate us because you ain't us. We're an open door, bro.
I know. I get it.
Great.
I get it, but
you grow up in a small pond and you come here and you get your butt handed to you, dude.
Get your USA stuff out of here, man. Nobody cares about your country.
No, I agree with the whole thing, but I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, we have to make this place great again first, and then we can do that. That's why it's like make here great again, then help Canada.
No, I agree. I agree with that. What I'm saying is but they're not going back over there. And if they want to go over there, we should let them go back. The smart people in that culture, because I've talked to lots of people. A lot of people, like we mentioned earlier, it's not that they even want to be here, right? Because you think about like the cross-border currencies that people have to, to be able to ship stuff back, like using, Union, whatever the freaking name of that wire company is. I've never wired anything about Western Union.
Western Union.
So imagine you send money. But there are people over here that come over here, right? You drive down in front of Lowe's at 4:30 in the morning, and there is a group of people that are ready to jump into a back of a truck and do a job that nobody else in America is going to do.
Yeah, they're called hardworking Americans.
That's pretty much, they're hardworking somebody, but they're.
But Mike, right? If we just stopped letting children go to school forever, and we're like, hey, that's what you got to do to have all the things you want that you complain about. People get a work ethic, and then magically the country fixes
but my point was this: they send the money back to where they came from, and the let's say their wife or whatever goes down to Western Union, and they send back, let's say they send back $500. Western Union is not going to give them all $500 because the dude that works in that Western Union shop probably going to keep 100 for himself. If she got a problem with that, she can say something. I'm going to take 100 out of it, and she gets 400, right? Because there's nothing that's maintaining that kind of stuff. They would rather get that money and stay over there. That's 90% of the people that are over here working. They would rather be able to do that job that they're doing here over there in a stable environment. I think we could all pretty much agree with that.
Of course.
That's what I'm saying though is if we did, now I'm not trying to, look, I'm not a leftist or anything like that, but if there was some way that instead of destabilizing these other countries, because we're great at that, infiltrating and destabilizing from within, like MV was saying, we do that. What if we were to plant, without sounding cliche, what if we were to plant a positive seed? What if we were just to really
look what Mr. Beast is able to do just by himself.
Exactly.
The government. Imagine. That's why I say if the people I know from Spaces were running the government, I can't imagine what we could do with technology. Technology is also supposed to be deflationary and things are hard. That's what people don't understand. If this was the 1990s and this was happening, we'd all be poor AF. We'd all be screwed. But we're lucky that we live in technology and it solves so many of our problems. But that should mean that all of our lives are better, but they're not. So that shows you what they've taken from us.
Agreed. Totally agree. It just seems like that. Yeah, you're right, Vinny. If we had people in here, because everybody from Layla and Andrew. Oh, there's my girl Eileen. Eileen, how you doing? Good to see you. MV, Robbie. I love everybody in here. It's almost like, and Destiny knows this from our other sister today. We talked about, before segregate ourselves. Segregation could be good, man. Just imagine if we could segregate ourselves and be around all the people that we like to be around. And then nobody else, if you want to go kill people, then you can live in that town where they kill people. But we don't kill people in my town. So don't bring that over here into our town because we don't like to kill people. But y'all can do it over there. Go do it over there. And so
that's why we got to push Gary Cardone into, if we lose the election, then it's our job to push Gary Cardone into buying a town. And
that's correct. That's the key. By the way, that's what we're going to be doing.
Hell yeah.
And guess what? Then we can use the county to protect ourselves. We'll be a gun sanctuary, no illegal immigrants. You know what I mean? Death penalty for touching kids. You can do all of that inside your county. And then just be and our police force is anybody who's competent and has gone through training. You know what I mean? You could do things like that and be this is our community. We protect each other. You come here.
I really want to hear what the other Gen Zer has to say on this subject, if that's all right, Mike.
Yeah, go ahead, Marwan, and then we're gonna hit Robbie after that, and then we'll come to Elaine. But MV, wanted to say thank you so much for I love your input and fantastic space host. You guys make sure you give MV a follow. She's fantastic.
Thank you, Mike. You too. Like recognizes like. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Marwan. Jump in there, brother.
Hi. Thanks for letting me up. So I think when you talk about immigration, there's two types of immigration. There's immigration from people who actually want to come to the country and they align with the culture. And then there's immigration that's they just open the border and let whoever comes in and basically purge the country of its resources. So, back in the day, it was way harder to be an American citizen. Immigrants would come here because of the American culture. The Athenian was right. There was no culture, multiculturalism. It was one culture, the American culture. They would come here for the American dream. So any immigrants that came here, and it was way harder, you'd have to stay in America longer. There were longer residency requirements and all that stuff. So now what they do is they come here and they sign up for welfare instead of coming here to work hard, and they just purge the country of the resources and they talk shit about it. So it's really two different things. And I think that good immigration is good for the country, obviously. Why would you not want more people who align with the country's views? But bad immigration is obviously bad, and obviously that's what they're doing right now. So I think it's important to separate that. And you guys were talking
about, let me before you go to your next point, let me just ask you this. How can they get subsidy? How can they get this help from the government if the government doesn't make it available to them?
Well, yeah, the government shouldn't be making it available to them.
And yet they could fix it. All these congressmen, they could fix it. They could fix all of it, and they never do. They never touch it. They will never fix this. And it's just strange,
Well, yeah, I don't really get why they're doing it. I mean, you could theorize why, but no one really knows why. I think it's just very silly what they're doing to the country. I think it's very sad. But I just wanted to say quickly, I'm not going to change the topic too much, but when you guys talk about us putting other countries in poverty, it's because we're the world reserve currency and we put them in debt. You know, if we just left them alone, they would be way better off. Or if we like gave them charity. But what we do is we put them in debt. So putting them in debt, if the dollar gets stronger, then the other currencies get weaker. So we put ourselves in a position where either we get stronger and we fuck everyone else over, or the opposite. We have to keep inflating our currency and keeping the rates low to make sure that the entire global system doesn't collapse. And I just wanted to put that in there because I thought it would be valuable.
No, I appreciate that, and that's it's a great call, May. Yeah, I mean, on point, Marwin. That was great. That was great input, and I agree with you. And it's encouraging to see, you know, people coming up through the tunnel that you know that have these good ideas that can recognize things that are going on in society. I think it's fantastic. Like I'm encouraged. I can't believe I'm one of the old people now that say that crap. God dang it.
Well, honestly,
May, laugh like that again when I call myself an old person. Watch what happens to your co-host. I'm just playing. Go ahead.
No, I really do. I have hope now that we've got more Gen Z people. We've had 2 on stage today, apparently. Both of them were men, which is not encouraging, but it's all right. I actually expect that, so it's all right. Yeah, we're good. Oh, Marwin doesn't like that. Sorry, Marwin.
Boo.
No.
Yay. Let me go, and I'm gonna welcome some new people to the stage. A couple people from the Hitch Slap clan in just a minute. I'm gonna come to both of them. They're in the same culture, so we're gonna bring them up in just a minute there and say hello. But first, I want to go. I know we got Julian with his hand up. I'll come to you next, Julian. But first, I want to go to I didn't get a chance to say one of my favorite people earlier because he kind of stole my analogy. But Robbie, I always love it when Robbie talks. I love his point of view on stuff. Just absolutely I mean this all sincerity, brother. One of my favorite people on here. How you doing?
You know, you always my man, bro. And you know, I hope to one day, be able to get back down to Texas and we come hang out, man. You've done nothing but have open arms for me, man. You know, you a genuine dude. You and Dez are awesome. That's why I love coming to y'all spaces and stuff and kicking it with y'all. My man Vinny, another 100 guy. Awesome dude, man. It's really good people. Yeah, I was just gonna say, well, first let me preface it like this, right? America has become, you know, the government has made America pretty much a whore, right? You know, let everybody from every culture come and have a turn with her, right? You know, they just banging her out and getting what the fuck they want out of it, and they done with it. And they might as well throw America into one of them Diddy parties. You know what I'm saying? That's how they treat her.
Not the Diddy party, bro.
Yeah, she done went to the Diddy
He
party,
went
baby.
to it.
Because
We know Oprah was there. We know Barack was there. We know who was there though.
Yeah,
Robbie's right though.
Yeah, they didn't Meek Milder. They didn't Meek Milder all day. You know what I'm saying? So it is, you know, and that's my thing, right? So that leads me to saying, like, you know, one of my favorite saints, St. Thomas Aquinas, it's called the Angelic Doctor. He says a lot on the immigration and stuff like that. And I think one of his great points is this, right? It's okay for us to welcome the stranger, right? And offer them goodness and kindness and charity. That's no problem. However, with immigration in regards to people coming into one's country and things of that nature, he states that it is pretty much by justice, right? By justice of the government to determine which immigrant is beneficial and which one seeks to harm the common good within the country, and either by law, right, or by some other decree, a government has a right and pretty much an obligation to its own citizens to reject those immigrants that seek to do the host country harm. And we have not done that. Our government has not done that. They have not made that quality distinction between the two, and it has caused nothing but harm to the common good of the citizenry here. And when you're giving free money out, when you're doing shit like that, that's not towards the common good of the American people, right? And so therefore, yes, you do have a right to kick people out of your country who aren't serving the common good. Like you were saying, Mike, people who think that throwing people off a building, you know, because of their sexual orientation, that's not a common good. That's an evil that needs to be eradicated. But there there are many people here that do believe that marrying, children at 9 years old and sleeping with them is okay. There was a Muslim man that was in the news not that long ago that married a 9-year-old girl. She died because of internal injuries, right? I don't have to get graphic with it. We all know what that means, right? That's a problem for me. I would smoke a motherfucker for some shit like that. 100. I ain't playing, right? But because I don't want to come off as intolerant, right? I have to respect this man's religion because that's what they say is the thing to do here in this country, right? That's bullshit. That has nothing to do with tolerance, right? That has something to do with the common good. And so we have been forced actually to adopt all of these customs from all these different walks of life as, gospel, right? To the detriment of our own society. And that's where I'm getting at with the culture, right? So to end with this, American culture is James Brown living in America, singing on Rocky IV with Apollo Creed coming to meet his death from Ivan Drago, right? American culture is Sunday meals after church, right? You still in your church clothes and stuff like that, and you eating a good spread that Big Mama didn't cook, right? That's American culture. American culture is Kool Moe Dee, right? It's the fat boys, right? Eating pizza and spitting cold rhymes, right? That's American culture, man. American culture is taking an Amtrak as slow as that bitch go, but you're going to be on it for about a week till you get to the other side of the country. That's American culture. You see what I'm saying? We got a culture. They just don't want us to promote it. You see what I'm saying? Because they embarrassed of us. They embarrassed of our culture. And they think everybody else's culture is better than ours. But I say, fuck that. You know what I'm saying? We need to bring our shit back. And it wasn't that long ago. 1996, I was in a student exchange in Japan. And that was the 96 Olympics. So I had like a couple USA jerseys and stuff like that. Man, we were so respected and revered around the world at that time. People was coming up to me asking me for my autograph. Shit, I was giving it to them too. You see what I'm saying? But no, long as that goes.
You should have charged them $5.
I should have. Yeah. I could have made a killing, boy.
And he signed it. And he signed it number 23.
Yep. I was Grand Hill for sure. No, but those are my memories, right? When I went to France, it was, it was a different look back then. But now we don't have that, and that's why I respect some of the countries I've lived in, especially the Japanese. The Japanese gonna let you know they Japanese. You know what I'm saying? You're going to go. There is not a house you're gonna go into that ain't got a tatami mat. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna cook their food. You know what I mean? You got to learn to like it. But there's a good movie that really addresses this, and I can't remember the name of the movie, but it starred I believe Michael Keaton, and he worked. It took place in Detroit at I think he worked for Chrysler, yep, that's it. And the Japanese came over and they had to assimilate, and you get to see some of the weird quirks with all of that. But this Japanese wife was making Jimmy Dean pork sausage every day for her husband, and he got sick of it at one time. Because he missed his food, right?
Did he just cut
Did
out?
we just?
Yes. Okay. Not me this time.
You hate to be that first person that jumps in there like the idiot. Like, no, we all hear it.
Well, I just like the awkward silence. So, I mean,
I know you do.
Didn't want to ruin it, but I wanted to know if I was glitching.
Don't you call it the pregnant pause?
A double awkward.
Wasn't that you, Destiny, that called it that?
Yeah, I love awkwardness.
I love that.
Because you can't get more real than awkward. Like, you can't fake it. You just can't. Okay, it's the creme de la creme of human interaction.
I continue to do this every Wednesday. It's unbelievable. Let me go to Julian, and then I want to go to Gabby real quick. Before we introduce,
so Destiny, is Tom Green like your favorite person on the planet though? Because like
Tom Green,
this whole
about
thing.
The dead moose? No, he's not awkward.
Pretty
he's just
awkward.
weird. There's a difference.
His weirdness makes everyone else feel awkward. So
it doesn't make me feel awkward, so it's not that special. It's just like weirdo.
Julian, jump in here. Awkward? Julian, jump in here and save us from this awkward conversation we're having about pregnant silences.
Don't you dare ruin it.
Well, I have to echo what Destiny said. I very much enjoy in my own life saying whatever will be the most unexpected thing. And then people 100%. Look at you like you're fucking nuts, and you look back at them like, well, it's your problem. You deal with it.
Yes.
I wanted to touch on, I guess Athenian was talking about it, how cultural norms are not consistent across time or space, which makes sense. And then the reason I came up, Mike, is you brought up morality and what they're bringing in that harms and what they're bringing in that helps someone who we bring into the country. The culture of a continent or country is, as I see it, like a consequence of the constituents. That was unintentional. But here's two more C words: their character and their capabilities.
Nice.
And I bring that up to reference Haitians because they've been posted about a lot lately. The average IQ of Haitians is 67. Our Supreme Court ruled that for, like, generally speaking, people with an IQ under 70 don't have enough agency or understanding of their actions to be put to death. It's not exactly 70 because they admit that, you know, the IQ tests are not 100% accurate. So there's a few other stipulations. But my point is that if you bring in people who are not like emotionally cognizant of their own behavior to the point where they can't control what they do, or where us putting them to death if they commit a heinous act would be considered a moral evil, why the hell would you even consider bringing these people in? So I think the idea of multiculturalism, it goes beyond just the like fluff and the outside appearance of the culture. You have to look inward to the people who cultivated that culture.
No, that's a great point.
And it's kind of controversial too, right?
Yeah, it is.
And it really, people do tend to let their emotions override the logic that's being used. And I think that in this situation, like, I think we can all understand that makes sense, that we shouldn't bring people in that have a lower IQ than what is legally allowed to, like, you know, put someone, even just putting them into a prison. I'm assuming there's some laws around that as well. Like, wouldn't that factor into psychological and whether or not they go into a insane asylum instead of a prison? Julian, do you know?
I believe there is, but I'm not positive on any specifics of that.
But just bringing them over here, it's
that would be determined by a judge. Like, a judge would determine whether or not because some people are mentally not like, I guess you'd say mentally retarded, I guess is the non-fun way to say it, but it's the way I'm going to say it.
That's that is the fun way to say it, actually.
They have a sponsor. So, like, if they show exhibit signs or whatever of being dangerous, then they'll be in a hospital. But if not, it'll be the prison.
Gotcha.
Yeah, if their retardation is homicidal.
Yeah, and it doesn't only apply to intelligence. It could be some sort of like psychosis they're going through that would make them mentally unsound.
It's almost like Julian, it's almost like you're saying that if they bring a bunch of people over here, that they could almost get them to do, maybe they can manipulate them and get them to do things that they don't want to do, like in all kinds of different areas.
Yeah.
Well, America doesn't exploit. Come on now.
I know. I'm just saying if we decided to.
Therein lies the rub with what you guys were just talking about, how people would rather be in their home country working, making that money. If we legally immigrate or emigrate all these people here, we're just like sucking all the brain power out of these other nations. And that's going to leave them fucked just as much as going in and screwing with their government and dealing drugs in there. So it's sort of a catch-22 where I don't think isolationism is the right approach, but it's kind of what I lean to.
No, that makes sense.
Live and let live.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Well, the good thing is we can just tell them when they come over here that they are in Haiti. We just fixed it, so it'll be fine. No, really, like last night when you were asleep, we fixed it. Y'all did? Yeah, it's fine. Now here's the person I want you to kill. Okay, now write this down. I'm just playing.
Just give them a bunch of keys to houses, and then when they show up, not a house, and you're just like, yep, and it's sponsored by this cryptocurrency.
That's right.
I mean, I don't like white liberals, but they're not going to chase me through the streets with a machete. So
that's true.
We're leaning in that direction, though.
Matters what color their hair is.
Let's see how it goes. Let's just see how it goes, Julian. Just don't run through the street.
Clearly, you've never been to Portland. I mean,
no, I have not. I'll give you that.
Well, because I've been chased through the streets by white liberals.
Yeah, that's where you
Portland is no place to mess with. The city literally says "Keep Portland Weird" is the actual legitimate, verified motto of the city. Like,
yeah,
isn't that Austin's too?
Yes, they're competing against each other.
Yeah, they are. They're both the same city.
But what's very lucky is that Austin's at least surrounded by normalcy, so you can just go out in the suburbs.
What's wrong with meth pipes and poop in the street?
Oh.
Well, that's
Nothing.
not Texas. Luckily, there's a million rangers standing in the street making sure that if you do that, that's the difference between Texas. It's like, hey, get out of here, versus like in California, they're like, oh, well, there's a good place to poop over there.
That's one thing about the Rangers. I can say this honestly, even being from, even talking about occultists, people from Texas, we know that we're a cult. We get it, right? But Texas Rangers, like they're like their own cult within Texas. Like even Texans don't mess with the Texas Rangers. Like we're not like that. What? No, like I don't even want to see one of them ever. Like I don't want to have anything to do with them. They're very private. And Gab's from Texas. She knows. She's done it.
They look like a football team. They look like
they
people
do.
you don't want to mess with. Like when I was on 6th Street and we were surrounded by Rangers, I was like, I get it now. This is definitely like, these guys, if they wanted to get rid of all of us right here, right now, easily could. No, and there were like probably 100, and it was crazy.
They're like cops, but in shape.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like that. It's the donut. They don't do donuts. So that's a good call. Hey, Gabs, I was going to come to you real quick because you said you were being chased through the streets in Portland. And I was by the liberals, and I was going to say, well, maybe they're trying to convert you to Jesus. And I remember the liberals they're not converting anybody to Jesus.
They ain't got no Jesus. Jesus ain't there. I'm telling you.
They're trying to convert you to George Floyd.
Yes.
Jesus ain't.
Gabs, what's going on with you? What's the latest? What's the word on the street?
The word on the street is I'm driving home right now from block walking. I've been block walking for the Republican Party today, and I changed an undecided voter decided to vote this time.
Really?
Yes. You know what? And what was so funny is when I got there, I've never been block walking before, and I go to all of these events all over town, and I've been bugging Tom Slocum to get me on some list so I can do some block walking, and he did, and so I was able to get out there and go today. But when I got there, it was weird because the precinct chair, he said, I just looked at a bunch of your videos today. They told me who you were, and so I looked at a bunch of your videos today. And so I'm so glad
the good videos or the other videos?
My
American videos, of course.
Leaders.
I knew
I'm
that.
an American thought
I
leader,
knew that.
Mike.
That's the videos. I was talking about those videos. What do you,
Mike?
Stop
Mike,
playing.
it's a different Gabrielle.
I've been on Tucker. Listen.
That's right.
And I ain't got no damn event. Don't nobody want to see that. I gotta tuck my titties in my back pocket. Don't nobody want to see that shit. Look, so
oh my God! I thank God this is a recorded space.
Tucker Carlson is here. Tucker, and I was on Tucker too, right? I was on Tucker, and Tucker Carlson is here with Jesse Kelly at the in Rosenberg tonight.
What?
And I was going to go, but I was going to go, but I decided not to go because I wanted to do this block walking event, and I'm glad I did because I talked to a woman. She had a for sale sign at her house. And we knocked on the door, and the precinct chair who was showing me the ropes, he was talking to her, and she was just kind of blowing him off. And I said, do you have kids, honey? And she said, yes, I have kids. I said, well, we need to get as many Republicans as we can into, winning in our legislature here in the state so that we can get school choice. I see that you're moving. Are you downsizing? She said, yes, we're downsizing. I said, your kids are going to have to go to whatever school that they're zoned to. I mean, that seems a little terrifying to me. The schools in Houston are not that great. They're not doing everything they can to help educate our children. So, school choice would guarantee that money follows the student and not the system. And she said, well, I hadn't planned on voting, but I will vote for that. That's what she told me.
That's pretty good.
So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going block walking. yeah, I'm gonna keep going block walking. But I wanted to say to y'all, and you know, I'm gonna hijack your space for a minute, but I want to go to the Women for Trump rally is gonna be in Round Rock, and so I'm trying to raise money to get a booth there. Because I want more mothers, more women to learn more about what I'm doing,
Round Rock or
with affirming reality.
Round Rock or Round Top?
Round Rock.
It's right
Round
above
Rock.
Austin.
I know where
Right
it is,
above
Vincent.
Austin. That's
But
Wilco County. Wilco County.
Round Top has people. They have big, huge, like little gatherings up there with booths and all that kind of stuff, and they sell their stuff. And they have all kind of huge. It's a huge meeting area. That's why I was asking those Round Top.
Yeah. No, we're Wilco County GOP is hosting a Women for Trump rally, and I'm trying to get up there. So anybody who can help me, please do. You know, hit my tip jar with some blessings, because I'm trying very hard to get as many people as I can. You know, as many people in Texas as I can, because we really are trying to set the standard for the rest of the country on stopping indoctrination, as in particular gender ideology, because we know what kind of carnage that nightmare is leaving. And so my team, we put together Dr. Nikki Johnson from Farron Medicine has joined our team, and Miss Pamela Garfield Yeager has also joined our team. She's a therapist, and we are moving the ball forward on this. So I'm doing everything I can to get one of our team members. We were going to go to a protest at the American Academy of Pediatrics, but our organizer, her husband had a stroke, and he's been in the hospital for almost 4 weeks now, and he's had 2 more strokes since he's been in there, and so we had to cancel that. And I already paid for my airline ticket, so I could only get a credit, but I still want to go to this Wilco thing, you know, and try to spread the message there. So anybody who can help me out,
they just go to your profile, go to your link tree. That'll take them to where they need to go?
You can either go to the link tree, or you can go to my to the tip jar at the top of my profile, and that has Venmo and Cash App. So and you know, and I even, you know, hey, send me a check if you want to send me a check. I got in my highlights, there's a thread that tells you all the different ways you can all the different links to all of the different ways you can help support.
Well, if somebody sent you a check, let me know, because then we'll make fun of them in public. That's going to be outstanding. So
listen, don't be making. Let me tell you something, because them senior citizens love to give me checks. I will take them senior citizens.
You just focus on driving home safely and untuck those things before you get out the freaking car. You know what I'm saying?
I gotta wait until I get in the house, because I'll
there we
trip
go.
over them if I untuck them right. Yeah.
Good seeing you. Good seeing you as always. Before I'm going to go to Doc and Alpha coming up, and I want to give a quick shout out to one of my favorite people on X. It might be, I say that just to make other people feel flattered on here, but in my opinion, he is the best space host around. Period. Bar none. See, Hitch he's putting up the heart sign, because really that could go either way. He doesn't know who I'm going to say, and so he's safe by doing this, and I appreciate that. I respect that. He got lucky, though. It just so happens it is the man, the myth, the kid behind the shades, Hitch Slap. Welcome to the stage, brother. How are you? How's your day, night, Australian, whatever? How's it going over there, brother?
Mike, check back in 5 minutes.
Wow, that's incredible. Freaking bastard. He did that to me on purpose. But right now, until he is able to talk, we're all going to talk quietly, because we don't want those people that he's doing that deal with to hear us talking. By the way, he's a tool. He's an op. He's an op. Hitch is an op. Just want to say that real loud. Real quick. Yes, that's right. Hey, Doc, how you doing, brother? Jump in there.
Doing great. You know, everyone knows me to be shy and not overly opinionated. I appreciate you.
No doubt.
Of course.
Of course. Like, I don't like Why would you even tell us that?
Yeah, I was just a little nervous. But you know, the topic is an interesting one, and as I'm listening to it, well, let me say this first. You know, I was born and raised in Los Angeles. I'm back now after being away for a couple of years, and it really noticed the change over my life here, because I'm within 5 miles of where I went to high school, and it is much more diverse. The condominium complex I'm in, there are a lot of Ukrainians, there are a lot of Indians, there are a lot more Hispanics, and to the extent that whites have been displaced within the 30 miles surrounding me over the last 6 years, I think we can see that if you draw a trend line with that change in population, with the change in our politics, going back, Reagan was my first vote in 1980. You see how the multiculturalism has affected our politics in a great deal. And what we're seeing now, and I think what most people are commenting on in the space so far, is the effects of the illegal and massive illegal immigration into the country over our border right now. As well as the foci of taking people who are from another place, who are not acculturated, and they're there in sufficient numbers to where they don't have to acclimate. And there are two places that's happened. One, I think, is in Springfield with the Haitian population. When there's 20,000 of them, their culture can supplant the existing culture. In the same way, when Obama was president in Minnesota, they brought in a lot of Middle Easterners into one particular community. And that drives down to get them congressional representation, if and when they get to vote. So there are a lot of very negative aspects to it. But I can say where I am living now, as multicultural as it is, it's one of the nicest, friendliest. I mean, Texas is a different culture than California. In California than New York. The culture of the youth is different than my culture. We are inherently and by design a multicultural country. So I just like to sort of, when I was listening to some of the negative connotations of the current migration pattern into this country, which is intended to subvert our culture, our joint culture, which is a love of freedom, a love of democracy, a love of free speech, a love of community. And so what we're seeing now, I would just encourage people to view it in the lens of this is a political manipulation by some very evil people. And I'll condemn, and I have condemned, practices that violate our laws, like eating, Mr. Puss in Boots from your neighbor's yard. That I'll condemn all day long. But I do think there are people on here, we call them the groypers, that their whole thing is, we need to maintain the white culture, the Christian culture. And I push back on that sort of stuff. I just view these things differently. Thanks for the mic.
Well, Doc, let me ask you real quick. But you can understand how, like, some of the fundamental, being that this was a Christian nation, whether or not people are Christian or not, I don't even think is relevant. But some of the fundamental Christian values that we built, that the country was built on, should be somewhat respected, don't you think?
Yeah. I mean, but I'm an agnostic, so to those values that are rightly identified with the Christian faith, I also think that they're inherently moral values as well. And so to that extent, I'm a Christian, right?
Agreed. Yeah.
Baptized a Catholic. But particularly with the war in Israel right now, the evil part of organized religion, in my opinion, is standing head and shoulders above the love, compassion, and tradition of the Christian church. So that's just my opinion. I know it probably pissed some people off, but a religion is a reflection of who we are as people. It's a large group. We all have shared visions and opinions, but there's a divergence from the far left of that group to the far right of that group. And
do you know of the white population decline, like the white people are becoming a minority? You've heard that, I'm sure.
I do, but I think that's on the white people to have more babies.
Interesting. Okay, fair enough.
We're assuming majority still. We're 56, I think, or 57%. But if you look at the trend lines, the birth rates of whites have been dropping for 2 decades. So is that the fault of people coming here from other countries? I don't know. I think you can conflate those two factors, and for me, it's like it's not a causation. It's something that's happening at the same time. So correlate is the saying, right? Correlation doesn't equal causation.
It's because they're too poor. That's why they can't afford to have kids. And
Exactly.
Immigrants are increasing. That's why. I want to hop in here really quick because I have something to say about this. So, okay, like what is culture, right? Like you have American culture, and then every state has its different culture, and then so I don't think culture is the issue. Like if culture was the issue, there would be states fighting and like different groups of people fighting all the time. I think the issue, what's changed in America, like from like 50, 60 years ago, 70 years ago till now, people have gotten way poorer, and the immigration laws have gotten way looser. So that's the issue. I mean, when people are broke and they have these lower quality immigrants coming in, they're going to get pissed off. They're going to be like, what the hell is going on? Right. So I don't think multiculturalism has like anything to do with it at all. And I just wanted to make that point. And what's it called? Shit, I forgot what I was going to say. Anyways,
I'll jump in real quick and maybe buy you some time, Marwin, to remember what you said, because I got to jump out to a podcast here in a minute. Culture is part of the issue, though. I mean, and you asked a phenomenal question. What is culture? And that's our shared, our customs, our societal behaviors, our values, like that's culture. So when you bring cultures that have zero intentions to acclimating to the culture that exists here, that is a huge issue. And our government's orchestrating that because they want that to happen. The reason I raised my hand originally, I don't remember who it was, but one of the gentlemen talking was doing a phenomenal job of talking about what American culture looks like. But I wanted to get mad at him because he didn't mention sports, man. He didn't mention baseball. He didn't mention football. All the other sports are gay. They're not even sports. But football and baseball, those are some sports right there. So I just want to remind everybody, singing, buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks, American culture. Think about football, 9 years ago.
Alpha, you can't come over here. Look, people are still saying it's soccer. Soccer's going to take over as the number one sport in America. They've been saying that for the last 50 years.
Well, here's the thing.
What's wrong? That's multiculturalism problems, right?
That is proof, Mike, that a large portion of the world really is retarded. I don't have a problem using the word retarded. Retarded. There's a lot of people. There's probably people in this. There's people in this space right now.
He's not just talking about the retarded Haitians. He's talking about regular retarded people.
I'm talking about retarded. Retarded to me has no boundaries on who falls into that demographic. As a matter of fact,
that's because you're fair.
Yeah, 100%. As a matter of fact, right now there's somebody that's going because I said it. You're retarded too. Now, what I do want to say, and we talked about it, earlier, is people need to be not afraid to call it what it is. Like combat these idiots when people are like, well, we have an immigration issue. No, we don't. There's a distinct difference between an immigration and an invasion. And what's been happening in the last couple of years is an invasion. They use immigration to tug on your heartstrings. What does mainstream media do? Puts a picture of the mom and a little kid. And then we see that that's orchestrated half the time to begin with anyways, but they never show you the literally millions that are military age males from places around the world that absolutely hate you. Like, understand, it's such a hate for you. They would have no problem doing the worst to you and your family and not even ever remembering it. Like, that is what your government has facilitated into the United States borders. So when we're having this issue, like, people need to recognize that. A year and a half ago, when they had that sheriffs and police meetings, and I want to say even Mayorkas was there. At that time, I think the number was like around 9 to 12 million, what they were alleging. But still, within those numbers, they said that 2 million of those men that came through were tier 1 for concern for our government regarding terrorism. 2 million. To put this in perspective, Mike, for the people listening, if you guys remember the war in Iraq, the most U.S. troops we ever had at Iraq at one time was 360,000. Now compare that to the 2 million they're at least willing to admit. And we know if they're willing to admit it, it's probably exponentially much larger than that. So, you know, Americans.
That's 2 months, brother, over here. It's 2 months.
It's scary, bro. It is scary. And the other part where, you know, and I actually think Doc right now was probably the most politically correct I've ever heard him. I'm not white, even though I get accused of being white all the time. I'm just a light-skinned dude with some color to him, right? But here's the thing: when it comes to the white culture, and I'm gonna be leaving, Mike. So part of this you might think was orchestrated just to throw some gasoline on your face.
Blow it up.
Listen,
blow it up on the way out, boy.
So, Doc, one reason within the white culture that you have this decline in birth rate is because maybe the white culture is being fucking responsible and realizing that with the current incomes that exist in this country to sustain a large family is not feasible. And guess what? Your higher IQ, because I just want to piss off everybody right now, Mike, your higher IQ people in the minorities are having smaller families because they're not retarded to keep having kids knowing that they don't have the ability to sustain that income-wise. Where you have the rest of the people, leeches, lazy folk, the broke people, the people that got no issue with this. Yes, you person that's mad, I'm talking about you, are willing to exploit the social service system on the backs of all of us. The ones who have been working since we've been 17 and 16 years old. The ones of us that have probably never even had a chance to take unemployment benefits, which in California, they want to make that accessible to guess who? The illegals that are coming here. I mean, this country's government hates you. And everybody that stands to use your emotions or the Bible or anything to exploit that, they're not American. They're retarded or they're illegal too. Because anybody would understand. I said this when he first brought me up, Mike, I'll land it here. If you went to the blood bank because you know that there's a demand for blood, you would donate. But at some point, they're going to stop. Why? Because the body can only give away so much blood and then it has to heal itself, has to make itself healthy again so you can come back and donate blood. Because guess what? If you just stayed there at the blood bank giving blood for everybody that needed, you would die. And that's what this country has done. It's kept us in the blood bank with no stopping in sight, and this country is perishing by the second. So stop being retarded, stop being emotional, call it what it is, stand up for this damn country. Everybody that came to this country without doing it the legal way, they are a criminal. Doesn't matter if they're a kid or an old person or they got a sob story, they are a criminal. And there's an ethical, moral way we can help these people without sacrificing our own citizens. And it doesn't happen until everybody here stops being emotional and acting all soft. That's what I got. Let everybody get mad.
I love the way that such an incredibly handsome human being like Alpha can turn words like retarded into sing song, like retarded. It's almost like
I just want to.
You're singing along. You're singing along with him. Hitch. He mentioned IQ, and then I got to go to Millie after Hitch because Millie can match that kind of. She can match that kind of sing song passion that Alpha had. But yeah, jump in there, Hitch, my man. This was the guy I was telling you about earlier that was in the private meeting, and he said he couldn't talk, but he can talk now. So let's go back to him. Jump in there, Hitch. What's up, brother?
What's up, brother? Great space. Follow Mike, follow all the hosts, and repost the space. I love these spaces when I can get in here. I've only got a little bit of time, and then I will have to step down. But, Alpha, right again. If I had $1 for every time I said that phrase, I would have a lot of money. He was hitting on some very, very good points. The first thing, yes, about America, what America used to do is it was highly selective with who it would let in. It would make sure you had some kind of credentials. It would make sure that you're going to contribute to the country in some way. And these immigrants were highly selected. And when you do that as well, you do two things. You limit the amount of kind of criminals coming in who've got a criminal record, etc. And you also optimize for IQ. So just by being highly selective, you're going to automatically be bringing in high IQ people. But what happens when you have open borders and you let a lot more humanitarian aid, immigration, that kind of thing? Well, you don't select, you don't filter out people to criminal history. You don't select for IQ. And this is what's happening in more recent times. So America used to be highly selective in terms of who it would choose, but it doesn't do that anymore, which is a big problem, as Alf was alluding to. The other thing, I don't know if it's already been covered, so apology if it has. There was it's been replicated, so it's happened at least twice. I think the author is Roland Fryer, but anyone who wants the guy's name, DM me. They did a study with ethnic diversity and social trust. And what they found, basically, there's a inverse correlation between those two things. In other words, the more diverse a society is, the less social trust there is, the less kind of community participation, the less talking to your neighbors. There was various metrics of social trust. Social trust goes down when ethnic diversity goes up. Again, two peer-reviewed studies. The first one by, I think it was Roland Fryer, and the second one, again, replicated by another individual. So this is very, very important. They're pushing the narrative that, all people are fungible. If you just took, 1,000, hunter-gatherer, sub-Saharan African pygmies, and you dropped them in Japan, that they would just assimilate immediately. It's like newborns, right? If you took 1,000 newborns from a hunter-gatherer society like the pygmies, and you just dropped them in Japan, well, they essentially become Japanese. They have the same tendencies, the same predilection, the same time preference. This is what's being pushed by a lot of governments, by the EU and a lot of people, and it's simply false. Different groups have different tendencies, and this is simply a fact. It's a cultural fact. It's a fact of evolution, and anyone who's looked into this even a little bit should know this. Now, it's because I'm saying, different groups are different doesn't mean I'm saying one group is better than the other. To say two things are different does not mean you're saying one thing is better. So I'm by no means making any value judgments about, cultural societies or hunter-gatherer societies or anything like that. I'm simply saying that they're different. And when you take a lot of people from a different culture, a different ethnic group, a different continental population group, for example, and plonk them in another kind of society, you're going to get tension, you're going to get problems, and you're going to get what we're seeing at the moment throughout the world, throughout the EU. Europe is experiencing it, and America is definitely experiencing it. So yeah, that's just what I wanted to add. But great space. I absolutely love these topics, and might come back in any of that. Otherwise, I'll drop down.
That sounds great. I knew that the moment IQ came up, I just, like, everybody's eyeballs in this room went straight to freaking Hitch. Like, oh my God, what's Hitch going to think? Like, was that right? Is that okay what he said about IQ? Like, it's nobody knew, right? We don't know until we hear from Hitch on whether or not what someone said about IQ was right.
Yeah, and so, IQ, anybody can fact check me on this. IQ is positively correlated with complicated job performance, with even with longevity, how long you live, and it's negatively correlated with crime. Even within families, if you compare siblings, same household, same parents, etc., siblings with lower IQ are more likely to be involved in crime. Siblings with higher IQ are more likely to go into academia and perform well. So anyone who thinks that IQ is fake should really, really look into it. And the national, I'll finish on this. People are often poo-poo and doubt, the national IQ. What does national IQ mean? There's a reason different countries have different national IQs, and there's at least 2 studies which show national IQ is the number one indicator of productivity. There's a very, very good reason for this. So, look, I'm still, I don't know if I would say this as kind of a fact, but I've heard it said before, if you import the third world, you become the third world. And there is definitely some truth to that. There's a reason that the third world looks different than the first world. And, the policy of being highly selective with who you let into your country is a good one. The policy of letting anyone in without checking their criminal history or their aptitudes or their ability to even sustain themselves in the country is a very, very bad one. So I'll leave it on that.
Excellent as always. You cannot beat that. Hit Slap, the man, the greatest bass host in X Spaces. Make sure you give him a follow, turn on the notification bell because he has some great spaces on the weekend.
Especially Big Booty Latinas.
Let's
space
go.
is always open for you. You know,
I'd be
shake your
remiss if I
bonbons.
didn't. I'd be remiss if I didn't shout out Destiny, absolute legend, and May Jordan. May Jordan, everywhere I go, people are asking me, where is May Jordan? I want to talk to May Jordan. She's co-hosting with, she's hosting space, and now she's co-hosting one of the best spaces. May Jordan, you are absolutely everywhere, absolutely dominating. One day I hope to be as good as you. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it, brother. Love you. Love Destiny.
Absolutely, bro. I love Hitch. Hitch is one of the few people I talk to privately, and he's a great human being. I trust him, and that's as good a compliment as I can pay him. So it's always a pleasure to have Hit Slap.
Thank you, brother. You've got. I really want to say hello to everyone. You've got too many good people on the stage. Everyone I love, but I'd soak up too much time. So every single speaker on here, I love you. You know who you are. I love you guys.
As long as you hit May Jordan, really, that's all that matters. You just got to call her out and say how great she is. Real quick. Oh my! See, Eileen, I just saw. I didn't even know you had your hand up. Let me go to Millie real quick.
For so long,
I couldn't see. I just saw that she was on stage. I forgot she was on stage. I couldn't see her. Shut up, Destiny. You're embarrassing me in front of my friends.
That was me this time. I'm joining in on
Oh my God. See, I should have never had two chicks. Vinny, my bad. Should have got two Vinnies up here. Millie, jump in there. How are you, Millie? Good to hear from you. Sorry, these girls, not you, Millie, the other girls. It's terrible.
What did you say, Millie? We couldn't hear you.
Oh, I was going to say, if Eileen's been waiting, you can let her go first.
I can't hear her.
That's okay, Millie. Go ahead, lovely. I know who you are. You're very articulate. Please go ahead.
Okay. I'm not sure if my signal's that great right now. But,
I can hear you.
Okay. But yeah, basically what I was just going to chime in and say is it's important to know what the dominant culture was, though, when America was initially founded. We hear it thrown around a lot. America was a multicultural country, but if you actually look at the founding fathers, you don't see that multiculturalism that everyone's talking about. You do see a lot of different cultures, people coming from primarily from Europe early on. So you saw a lot of Europeans, people from England, people from Ireland, people from even if you were to even say Germany or Denmark or Italy, or you can kind of go into those different realms. But what you notice is that those cultures all had very similar cultures. Like their cultures were actually pretty similar for the most part. And if you were to look and go through the history of those, it's primarily and partially because of many of those were monarchies for the longest time period. Many of them were Christian, so they had a similar background of Christianity, and they also had a monarchy, and the monarchies actually would marry off the royal members of the family to these other houses. So oftentimes you'd see like a princess of Italy or maybe somebody from Germany marrying into the Italian royal family, or vice versa, and it would kind of all go around. So you had the similarity in culture between these groups. So when they came here to colonize, essentially in the United States in those early time periods, there were still very much similar, even though they had slight cultural differences that somewhat set them apart. They were pretty similar in the basis. It's not as drastic as, okay, let's import a bunch of people from the Middle East who pray to Allah and have a drastically different culture than the majority of the population there. Or let's bring a bunch of people from, third world countries who are so far removed from that original culture. So sure, as time has progressed in the history of America, more and more people have come from different countries across the globe, right? And we've slowly but surely immigrated people here, but it was done so in which the dominant culture, which was primarily of European, UK influence, which founded America, that dominant culture was what was essentially dominant. And because of that, the people coming in from these other areas assimilated. And the proof in the pudding of that is the fact that everyone here speaks English. Okay, we're all speaking English. We've all assimilated to this language. Why are we not speaking Italian? Why are we not speaking, why are we speaking English? Why are we not speaking Spanish, right? So it's because everyone has assimilated to that culture, which was the dominant culture, that language. And so now the problem is we're rapidly increasing the rate in which we are bringing immigrants here. And now the immigrants are not coming from a similar culture that share our values. They're coming from a very drastically different cultures all across the globe. And many of them do not share the culture, do not share the religion, which was Christianity. And so what's happening is we're having culture shocks essentially taking place because you're having these large influxes of migrants coming. Obviously, there's economic reasons for why people are upset, right? They're being forced out by their landlords are forcing them out because they're being given incentive by the federal government to house the migrants instead of the Native Americans, the people who live here. And so, what I'm getting at here, though, is essentially the way it's being done. These groups are not going to be forced to assimilate as quickly as they would have if they were coming in smaller amounts. And I think that's going to cause problems. It's also causing major disrupts because they're being moved into areas which have dominant, in some of these areas, like, for example, Chicago, that's a primarily African-American culture there. Now they've just been inundated.
Did we lose her?
Yep. Their community and their culture that they have there. And so there's going to be a whole sea of problems that happens because of that. So my main thing is, look, everyone's been saying that this is a multicultural country, blah, blah, blah. It's always been multicultural. Not necessarily like in the context of, sure, you could pinpoint and say, Germany has a different culture slightly than France, and then, than the UK, and then Ireland, and sure, everyone has a slightly different culture of those people who originally came here and made up the colonies. But for the longest time, the majority had very similar cultures and overlaps in the cultures, which allowed them to kind of gel in a cohesive manner.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And I think the way that you say that is, I don't want this to be a multicultural nation. But I don't mind that it's multicultures that I don't mind that multicultures live here. I just want it to be one culture over here where the multicultures come over here and adapt to our foundation. So, and I've given the analogy because it's the best one I can think of, is that, England cannot bring their driving culture to the United States, right? You can't drive on that side of the road, right? So no matter what if you've been born and raised in your whole life and you love driving, it means everything in the world to you. And just, your dad taught you to drive. You can't come on. Yeah, but you can only drive on the left side of the road. Yeah, but you can't do that over here though. So that part of your culture has to stay in England. Otherwise, a lot of people are going to die.
Unless you're Haitian.
Unless you're Haitian and you have a low IQ, and you're eating cats. So
I'm hearing a lot of Britishism right now.
I know. I'm a British. But yeah, that's great points, Millie. Always good to see you. You guys make sure you give Millie a follow. Check out her website. She's got it on her profile there. So Millie always contributes great stuff to every conversation. Make sure you follow her. When she's hosting spaces whether it be with American Mission or Jen. Boy, Jen was going off today, wasn't she? And Trash.
It was awesome.
It was something else. Something else. It was fantastic stuff. I want to get to Eileen because we're about to wrap this up here in about 15 minutes. But Eileen, I'm sorry I didn't see your hand up. I couldn't even tell that you're a speaker. So I apologize. One of my favorite people. I love Eileen. I'm her bro. She's my sis. Like, that's the way it is. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're just making it happen, living that life. What's up, Eileen? How you doing?
Eileen,
I'm good.
Thank you.
By the way, real quick, Eileen, I just want everybody to know Eileen falls under the Hitch Slap umbrella. Like, she's a part of the she falls underneath that family line. So I just wanted to let everybody know. So Eileen, jump in there.
Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely, sound fantastic.
Yeah. I'm trying to get Hitch Slap to have an insignia, and we're all going to slap it on our profiles, and we're the Hitch Slap group, and I'm going to convince them to do that pretty soon and start to make that a business.
I love that idea.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. I love you, Mike, to bits. You know that, my brother. Okay, so I had a few thoughts. I'm generally pretty calm about these sort of discussions, but not today. I'm going to bring some heat, and not in a bad way, but in a thinking way. So this topic is so relevant for today. And if you had more British people speaking, which we don't, I recognize it, a lot of Americans on the team talking, but look what's happening in England. Do you think they would answer something differently from what the people are answering in here today right now? I mean, that's coming over to Canada really fast and furious, and heading to the United States really fast and furious. We're not paying attention. Something about the culture definition. So I look at it as, shared beliefs and practices, social norms, language and communications, traditions, arts, values, collective identity, adaptability, one of the most important things. So here's what else I want to say about this. I do come from an abundance mindset, not a scarcity mindset. However, if one doesn't know who they are or what they want or where they want to go, one won't be able to define their own morality. So we look at this in this sort of way. There's a sort of underlying thought that everyone wants peace. They don't. Many people don't want peace. They love the bloody chaos. They don't want what we consider Western culture, which is fundamentally based on Christian-based, understanding. Again, look what's happening in England. I wrote an article pinned on which doesn't get much reach, about what's happening in Canada, where they're offering halal mortgages only to Muslims. Why is that? I wrote a long article about financial product only being offered to one religion. Why? We're all Abrahamic children, because the law of usury, it applies the same thing in the Quran, in the Bible, in the Torah too. Why is it only offered to Muslims? This is our governments, I understand this, dividing us. Furthermore, why is Quebec one of our provinces that the Americans don't know? There's this, divide about not allowing teachers to wear a cross. If you're a teacher, you can't wear a cross. I'm like, why? Because this particular kirpan, this blade that a particular religious people wear, they want that in the schools. I'm like, this is a blade, not a piece of jewelry that you wear. But they've taken the cross out as well. We don't say the Lord's Prayer anymore. We don't say the national anthem anymore. We allow, the white Christian culture is like, you are going to be the lowest of the low. We have to take all of it and say nothing back. Why is that? This is improper to me. It's absolutely immoral. So if you can define what your morality is, and if you know your side, because soon enough, you're going to get this rural and urban war, and we know it. And if we're not paying attention, you're either lazy, stupid, or useless. You need to know what side you're on. And I know that some of the people are young in here and they haven't made up their mind about that, but pay attention really fast. If you don't understand what's happening in England, pay attention. That's coming over here fast and furious. I'm so sick and tired of people bending down and being that, it's okay, we're all going to be okay and in harmony. Are we? Is that what's happening everywhere? Is it? Because I don't see it. It's not happening at all. It's complete destruction. There are fires everywhere in England, every cities, all of Europe. There isn't a country I understand that, has, this understanding, well, like the Islamic states. We don't have this. We don't have a Christian country where we can go to. And the people that want to come over here, believe me, they don't want peace. They don't. And if you lived long enough, hard enough, far enough, you too would understand that too. So I send that over to you, Mike. That's my position on it.
That sounds like, I think that's a lot of people's position. I think it makes sense to a lot of us. I think when you gave that example of the person, like when you're talking about if somebody goes into a church and they can't wear a cross or something like that, and that person can't, quote unquote, say something, no pun intended, but literally say something, like they should be, I don't even know. I don't know, Vinny. I don't even know I don't even know how to handle that. If you're going to wear that cross, if it doesn't mean anything to you, then you would just tuck it inside your shirt. You would just go about your business. But I couldn't imagine a scenario where somebody would tell me that and I would tuck it into my, like I wouldn't wear it. You know what I'm saying?
Imagine if it cost you your job, Mike. You're a teacher. You work
without hesitation. Now, granted, there's a lawsuit that
does it cost you or your
so
life?
fast. I think that, I mean, you know, I could sit there and say, absolutely, I would do that. I mean, that would be scary as hell. And then I'd have to ask myself, am I going to do more good moving forward in life and what my witness could be with somebody else moving forward, as opposed to getting rid of this cross right now? Like, which one is it? And I don't think that me getting rid of that cross is denying Christ. So I don't know if I would give up my life for that, because of what I would be able to do with my life. But as far as losing my job, something like that, I mean, I'm not saying I'm gonna lose my job and walk away from it. I mean, there's gonna be a lawsuit. I mean, without a doubt, you know, which I think that if somebody were to ask that's a pretty precarious position for an establishment to be in. But real quick, Des, go ahead. You can got this, guys. We've got to close this thing down. It's going to be a hard about 8-9 minutes from now. So just going to boom it in about 8 to 9 minutes. So if you guys can give your comments and keep it to about a minute or two, because we got to get out of here. So, but I appreciate it though, and we just got to go through Destiny speed round.
I think it was probably Steffi next. He hasn't spoken yet.
I'm going to make the argument that American culture has not, like, in many ways has been declining in so many ways for a very long time, at least several generations, like probably since the invention of the television set and then downward from there. So like television, media, and I think like my overarching thesis is the human mind has not evolved to handle technology from a mental perspective. So the sheer onslaught of what it means to have like social media, and then, or even before that, like online porn and all the other things, like, you know, these are just so powerful that like to sit and you know, and then, you know, to blame the sort of like the Haitians because white people aren't having enough babies is just fucking embarrassing, quite frankly. Like white people in America has pretty much abdicated any responsibility for like white civilization, whatever that means. And like, quite frankly, it's just embarrassing. And certainly many of our forefathers had a much, much, much worse life with less money, with less shit. And like the complaint that, oh, there's not enough money to have children, then have your civilization fucking die then. That's how that ends. So like there is no choice about that. It doesn't matter like what the dating scene's like, whether you think you're going to stay married or not. If you believe that your civilization, your genetic lines need to survive, you need to have something along the neighborhood of 3+ kids. Otherwise, it doesn't happen. Otherwise, just simply abdicate to whoever will. There's a reason why in the Bible it says be fruitful and multiply. You can just basically just roll over and die, or you can figure out how to make culture better. The trouble is, I think right now that like the clear potential problem is that we have not established that the existing world order of like industrialized countries can tolerate the onslaught of technology when it comes to birth rate. And this is happening to every culture all over the world, not just white people. Any industrialized nation, and even, by the way, the minorities that move to, say, Europe or the US, everybody's having less babies. It's not even just white people specifically. So, like, part of the idea was bring all these people in, and they're going to do the, you know, the meat packing jobs and all the shit that everyone else doesn't want to do, while we get fat, sit around our ass, and, like, not do those jobs. And the idea was like, let's go bring those guys in to do it. They'll have more babies and we can like shove them in the meat packing plants and the farming jobs or whatever the fuck else. So we like people brought these folks over because we were too lazy to do it ourselves. And then when you add all that, on top of that, they're not having kids either. And on top of that, they're welfare recipients. So they're not, you know, they're not bringing the value that like, you know, we thought that they would have. And I think what we're going to have happen, unfortunately, is, you know, unless robotics and AI create a gigantic renaissance in terms of like monetary and economic value, we're gonna all just be poorer, because when you have a declining civilization, declining population, guess what? The economy just is going to suffer, and that's how that works. Like you don't have the Ponzi scheme can't be maintained without at least like, you know, the same population. Even if you weren't growing, even if you could just stay stable, that would be one thing. But we're not even close to that anymore. So that's kind of my take on this. And I think like worrying about like what the immigrants and whatever the fuck else are doing, that's just an embarrassing concession that you just can't, like whatever your race is, whoever's in here, whatever race you are, Like, it's just an embarrassment if you can't keep your civilization alive. That's my take. Anyway, it's a no nonsense, no excuses. Stop fucking around and go do what you're supposed to do. Take. If that makes sense.
And this is Seffi's like area of expertise. So yeah, he's done a lot of research into this stuff. And I've recently, he basically blackpilled me on the whole population thing and fertility crisis. And it's real. It's a real problem. So yeah. I know we're speed running it, Mike, so I'm gonna shut up.
No, I'm just waiting for Des to jump in there and do our speed run.
I'm here. I'm sorry. We got hands up. Okay. We got Marwan and Chris. But Chris, you end the space since you got interrupted earlier today. So go ahead, Marwan, and then Chris, you can be the person who ends the space with me.
We got about 4 minutes, guys.
All right, I'll just say super quick. So I think, you know what? I don't even want to talk. Let's let Chris talk. It's fine. I don't really have anything. Like,
no, don't worry about it, bro.
I don't
Jump
take
in there.
because I'll go on too long. I don't want to like take
Weather, the weather is weather.
You guys butcher it every time, and I just posted it like word for word. You guys suck. Anyway, go ahead, Chris. I get the thank you, Marwan. But you know, if you ever need to, just raise your hand back up, and we'll get you back in. Go ahead, Chris.
All right. Well, first of all, I would like to apologize for my outburst earlier.
Do not apologize. Ivy is an asshole.
Yeah, they were dicks. I had to kick them.
Yeah, and you know, I don't. It takes a lot for me to block somebody. It really does. But he earned it. So there you go.
You speak facts, Chris.
So, but you know, everybody in here has had some really great points, and I think that people have learned a lot of things tonight. And this is a testimony to the host and co-host who've put this together and kept it going. And I want to thank you all for that. I think one of the most difficult things that perhaps we've seen, one of the most abusive things that we've seen, is when you take a group of people and you deposit them in a place where they clearly don't belong. If you go and look at immigration in ages gone by, and you deposit a large number of immigrants into a place like, I don't know, New York City, which was, filled with millions of people who are all immigrants, okay? They are prepared to deal with lots of immigrants. But when you take 20,000 people and dump them in a tiny little community in white bread, Ohio, you have committed a crime, is what you've done, because you have not only destroyed that community, you have not done any of the people that you dumped there a favor, and you have put the people who are now responsible for trying to assimilate these 20,000 people, who represent fully 20% of their new population, an insurmountable problem. Because it would be different if they spoke Spanish or Italian or Russian or some reasonable, even Chinese, for God's sake. But these people speak Creole, which there's only one country in the whole world that speaks Creole, and that's Haiti.
I should have dropped him in Louisiana.
Haitian interpreters get $600 an hour. So
Wait, what?
If you want to make good money, you learn how to speak Creole, and you
Me
can get
habla Creole, Chris.
$600 an hour to speak Creole.
For what?
I don't care.
To interpret.
He would like to
there are
stab
that-
you.
There are that many. There's not that many people in the United States who can interpret Creole. They get $600 an hour, and
bet money.
Just the 911 calls in that little town in Ohio alone is enough to keep you busy.
I'm freaking dying right now, Chris, because I'm like literally like Google searching like first beginner's year Creole classes.
and I don't think that you know.
I always like New Orleans every time I go. Like, you know, this could be a thing for me. Next thing you know, I'll be tap dancing and jazz and jambalaya.
So why in
Let's
the
do
heck
it.
would they dump them in? Why would they dump them in New Orleans then?
Well, because nobody in New Orleans speaks Creole.
What?
They just
They eat it.
Just cook
They
food.
eat it though.
Well,
Cajun.
Cooking and talking are two different things. There may be 3 people in New Orleans that speak Creole.
Yeah, but you can't understand people in New Orleans anyway, though. It'd be a nice little.
That's not illiterate enough. Like it has to be like I'm gonna get you out. Like it has to be like
No joke.
non-legible.
No joke. In the New Orleans airport, my wife literally said, "What language is that?" And I got to look her dead in the eye and say English. And she was like, "Wait, what?" And I was like, "Yep, that's Boomhauer talk from." And her mind was blown because she's like 6 years younger than me. It was the greatest thing in the entire world. I was like, "Oh, this is those weird moments where you're like."
We should have a Southern space in here where we just talk about how great the South is.
It is great, though.
I would love that. I can tell y'all.
Me too. I have great New Orleans stories. Like you wouldn't.
Nolans.
Everybody's
I
pissed wall in New
grew up
Orleans.
down there.
Arkansas. That's what I tell y'all about.
And yeah, those are God's people down there. But you know, you're not going to find, if you get 3 people in the whole city that speak Creole, those are the people who are probably who are reading palms or something and selling voodoo dolls. It's sad. It is.
Those voodoo dolls don't work. It sucks. I don't know if you guys have ever tried one, but not like I ever tried one against my high school anatomy teacher. But if I were, it didn't work.
Did it also teach you about anatomy as you were doing it?
I already knew about anatomy. Okay, Miss Warren was just a rude bitch, and she didn't like me for some reason, and that was weird. All teachers loved
She was
me, and
trying
she
to
was
tell
just.
you. She was trying to teach you, Destiny, not to use your anatomy that way.
Yeah.
Well, okay, you know what? You shake what your mama gave you, okay? And that's the rule. That's America, okay? America.
What
So-
rapper is that?
It's part of the Declaration of. Don't worry about it. Anyways, guys, it's been such a wonderful space.
Marwan put his hand back up, but thank you very much for letting me speak.
Thank you, Chris, for giving me a new career to be looking forward to training for. I'll be doing Creole, y'all. I don't even know what the accent is. Creole.
God bless y'all. God bless y'all real good.
God bless you real good, Chris. You have a wonderful night.
And them pygmies down in New Guinea.
Hey,
Go
Chris,
ahead,
I
Marwan.
just want to tell you real fast, Chris. I appreciate you, man, and I appreciate that blessing you still on me, brother. I appreciate,
It still sucks, Mike. It still sucks.
You suck. I'm from the damn South. You northern freaking.
What I do. You know what? I'm gonna leave that alone. Go ahead, Marwan. Now that I've made him awkward. Thanks, Mike.
Stay out of the South.